all of us, not only mentally, but also socially and professionally. It has devastating effect on overall morale and sentiments of all of us. For organizations, financial well-being of enterprises and employees is paramount to drive productivity and performance at workplace. Considering the need, FICCI under the aegis of HR committee has planned this virtual summit to take a deep dive into the various aspects of well-being program to make it more comprehensive, agile, fair, and inclusive, especially during this tough time. We are honored to have with us today Mr. Rujbe Irani, Chair, FICCI HR Committee and President, Group HR Communication and member of the Group Executive Board, Mahindra and Mahindra Limited. Ranjan Kumar Mohapatra, Co-Chair, FICCI HR Committee and Director, HR, Indian Oil Corporation Limited. Anuradha Rajdan, Executive Director and Vice President, HR, Hindustan Unilever Limited. And Manish Shingal, Deputy Secretary General, FICCI. Without taking much time, may I request our Deputy Secretary General Manish Shingal to give the opening remarks.
Thanks, Mrityunjay. Mr. Ruzbe Irani, Mr. Ranjan Mahapatra, Ms. Anuradha Rajdan. Thank you, all of you, for being here, and thank you all participants for being here this morning. Before I begin formally, I think on behalf of FICCI, I would like to pay our gratitude to all the COVID warriors in India and across the world. I think they deserve our sincere thanks for taking care of all of us all these 4 months and probably 5th, 6th month getting in. This initiative today is led by the FICCI HR committee, which looks after various aspects of HR life cycle, be it talent acquisition, innovation, mindfulness, skilling, outplacement, total rewards, etc. Today, of course, we are talking about total well-being. Employee satisfaction, as all you HR professionals would know, is about employee well-being, and HR philosophy is also aligning itself to the VUCA world. Disruption, where is the only constant, and each and every business has to adjust to it. Current pandemic is probably just one big example, and a very good example in the sense that probably one of the few disruptions which has impacted business globally and across sectors. So this Total Wellbeing Summit actually focuses on holistic well-being of our workplaces, and especially in view of disruptions like the current one. So as we navigate our way through Black Swan events like this, for the first time, I think we have witnessed economic and non-economic disruptions in our lives. So overall well-being of the community, of our people, both physiologically and psychologically, becomes very important. In the workplace, the way businesses operate and are likely to operate in future has totally changed, and it's given a new meaning, I would say, to work-life balance. Because earlier it used to be a balance between personal life outside office hours, but last 5 months at least, we really don't know what office hours mean. So enterprises across the board are looking to short-term measures on one hand, and at the same time, as the business activity has to be revved up and revived, they're also taking measures to keep the employees healthy, keep the organization healthy, and also look at long-term strategies to keep people that way, so that next time there is a global disruption, we are all better prepared and we are able to adjust better. As this pandemic continues, working from home probably would be the new normal. We've already heard of organizations like TCS planning to have 75% people working from home by 2025. And hence, there would be many other companies who would go that way. So in view of this, total well-being itself may undergo a paradigm shift. McKinsey, I believe, did a survey which revealed that while organizations may not be able to act on compensation right now due to the economic slowdown, they can still achieve 55 to 60% improvement in engagement, in employee engagement, by looking at recognition through non-financial means. And this, one of these means is total well-being, and taking care of employees. So before I end, I would just wish to probably suggest on behalf of FICCI, based on the work done along with our HR committee, that we could look at probably four approaches. One is to build support mechanisms for employee well-being. It could mean helplines. It could mean support from psychiatrists, or massive support in case of any health crisis faced by any of the employees. We should also probably inculcate a culture of removing stigma among employees vis-a-vis those who could be affected by a pandemic like COVID. At the same time, another suggestion is to adopt compassionate and informal approach, and at the same time, a very informed approach by through consistent communication. So this is going to be somewhat tough because one has to strike a balance between fencing out the top talent and at the same time optimizing employee costs by way of human resource rationalization. So when it comes to human resource rationalization, my fourth suggestion would be that we could look at outplacement processes within the organization. In fact, our own HR committee is working on it to look at how to create a marketplace for companies who are outplacing, and at the same time, maybe fewer, but companies are still hiring. So this could become a very easy way of taking care of employees, and that helps in overall well-being because they would have some sort of a psychological security in their mind that yes, they will be taken care of in any eventuality. Last but not the least, suggestion from us would be that the work from home policy itself, medical health insurance policies, and reward recognition programs also need to be probably relooked in the backdrop of probably a much larger work from home culture going forward. On all this, we have an impressive lineup of HR professionals over 3 sessions following this session. So I really hope that this becomes a very comprehensive outreach to the HR fraternity today. And I'll just probably wrap up with a quote from Sadhguru. He said that whatever kind of business you are into, ultimately there's only one business, that is human well-being. Thank you all. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being with us today. Thank you, Mrityunjay.
Thank you, Manish. Thanks a lot for setting the background. May I now request Rujbe to give us the inaugural address?
A very good morning to all of you, and thank you, Manish and Mrityunjay. First of all, I'd like to start by welcoming you all to this summit. Thank you to the 100+ participants, partner companies, as well as the very impressive lineup of speakers that we've got with us today, as well as to the FICCI team, which has put together this entire summit. As Manish said, this summit could not have come at a more appropriate time. We've all been through the last 5 months of COVID, and it's been a very, very unusual time. I mean, I hope it's not something we will go through again in the rest of our lives. This is a period of time during which it's not just the immediate well-being of our employees that we need to think of. We need to think of what the new paradigm is going to be like and what we need to do to ensure that our employees are not only physically safe, but mentally and financially taken care of. So a holistic approach to well-being is needed today more than it has ever been needed in the past. That's the key point that I'd like to emphasize. I think Manish has already shared with us the 3 or 4 approaches that the FICCI HR committee is considering actively, so I will not repeat that. But what I will stress is 1 or 2 things. To me, I think the mental and psychological well-being of our employees is more important today than it has ever been in the past. Right? It's always been important, but it's never been sufficiently emphasized. I would submit to all of you that today it is it is absolutely paramount. We need to be sensitive. We need to take care of our employees' mental needs. We need to recognize that working from home is creating a huge amount of stress in a lot of people. We also need to recognize that there is a huge amount of uncertainty among many of our employees as to what the future of work is and what the future of their jobs are. And I think creating an element of certainty, being humane, providing options and opportunities, and providing mental well-being services is critically important. Equally, I would like to add that the future of work is not going to be what the past of work was. We need to recognize that while work from home, the way it is today, is not going to be long term, there is going to be a lot of change in the way we work. And therefore, anticipating that and reshaping many of our policies to make that conducive is another important task for us as a HR fraternity. So with these few words, I'd like to once again appreciate the efforts of Vicky and the team that has put this together, plus all the speakers who've agreed to come together and share their wisdom with us. And I look forward to a very good next 4 hours together. Thank you.
Thank you, Rijbe. Thanks for setting the context. May I now invite Anuradha to address the audience and share her perspective. There are a lot of good things that we are hearing about the organization also. We look forward to hear.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the audience. First of all, I want to thank Vicky for inviting me to be a part of this session. I haven't so far seen a summit which is entirely focused on well-being, and I think this is a great step by Vicky. It's a privilege to share the platform with Manish, Rusbe, Ranjan, and the many other eminent speakers you have lined up for today. For long, we viewed well-being as a nice to do, something we look at when we finished addressing all the other problems for the business and our workforce. And sometimes even, like Rusbe said, a stigma, and therefore not often talked about. But amidst the many effects of the COVID pandemic, keeping an engaged and motivated workforce will be vital. Why? Vital because this pandemic isn't going away in a hurry, as we've seen. And in this prolonged crisis, the well-being and resilience of the people will be a leading engagement factor and leading factor of engagement and company performance. So why is well-being so important now? It may feel obvious, but I think it's important to spend a few minutes reflecting on why well-being is more important now than ever before. The first thing, I'm sure amidst the many social media write-ups that we are all seeing, you would have seen this quote, which says that we are in the same storm, but in different boats. This pandemic has had a disaggregated impact on different people. For some, for everybody, of course, it is worry about health, safety, but for some people, it's heightened because they are looking after vulnerable family members who live with them. For some people, there is a much greater heightened uncertainty about their jobs, about livelihoods, given the various layoffs in the market. In a recent study, BCG, I read, has said that there are 150 different living scenarios of people living alone or with families, or staying remotely. And in each of these scenarios, we have representations of employees in our workplace. And therefore, the one thing we need to know is that there is no one glove fit all. The impact of this pandemic is very, very individual in nature. And therefore, our solutions as an organization need to be customized. And you can't paint the whole canvas with one stroke of a brush. The second thing I wanted to talk about is the prolonged nature of this crisis. Not only has it already gone on longer than anyone anticipated. I know that when we, in March, we said, this will be a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, and then we will all be back to business as usual. But it's over 5 months and it's longer than anyone anticipated. And one thing that is clear is that the so-called end of the pandemic will only be the start of the economic crisis that is already upon us. Many in our workforce are anxious, and they are more anxious than they let on. Because one of the things about high performance organizations is people feel the need to keep a face where they're on top of everything, where they don't want to be seen as not in control. I was seeing in a Forbes survey, more than half the people said that they are hiding the concern of what will happen with childcare because there is so much uncertainty around when schools will reopen. And in fact, 3 out of 4 respondents said, and it was predominantly women, that they will have to consider a change in career if schools don't start early. And now this is not a conversation that people can bring up easily. So there is a hidden anxiety that we must acknowledge. The third is that the people who left or the people who went away when we switched to different work protocols, whether it's in the front line or whether it's people working from home, are not the people who are going to come back. People have been through such a turmoil, physically, emotionally. Equally, it has been a time of introspection for a lot of people whose priorities have shifted, such that, there is a stronger bond with families. There is such a heightened focus on immunity, health, well-being, and some of these changes are here to stay. And therefore, as an employer, we need to reconnect and re-engage with all of our compassion, empathy, and creativity so that when we are back to a new normal, we can start to build an engaged workforce for the future. In Unilever, we have looked at holistic well-being for a few years now in the form of physical, mental, emotional, and purposeful. The names are self-explanatory, so I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about what each one means. But just to give you a couple of examples of things which have worked for us and some learnings that we've had. The first is what I would call the power of purpose. As an organization, purpose is at the heart of everything we do. We have a compass, which in a way is the purpose of the organization, which is that we want to make sustainable living commonplace. And that is the heart of our business model. But that's not enough. We've said that just as the organization has an overarching purpose, we want every employee who serves in Unilever to have a leadership purpose of their own. And what is this leadership purpose? It's what gets you out of bed. What are the things that you're truly passionate about? What's the legacy you want to leave? And that's often a little bit more than what your job is. And that brings a little bit of difference to how you approach your job as an employee. And therefore, in the last 2 years, more than 90% of our employees in India have been through a purpose workshop, including the last blue-collar employee in our factories. And we call it Discover Your Purpose. And while this workshop is just a start, it's 3 or 4 hours, but what it does, it gets people to reflect on the larger impact and the bigger purpose for which they are working. And I believe that this purpose and pride is at the heart of what has kept our people going. Otherwise, why would a frontline hero want to risk coming and selling in the market when they know that they're at risk of being hurt by authorities? They don't know how they will get back home. Or an employee in a factory who's at real risk and fear of social boycott because their communities are scared when people go out to work. But I think it's this larger purpose and pride which has kept people going over the last many months. The second thing that I want to talk about, the second initiative that has worked for us is what we call a well-being quotient. Like I said before, the impact of the pandemic is not same on everybody. And therefore, we said for us to recognize the different needs of our employees and to heighten the sensitivity of our line managers, we developed an in-house questionnaire. It's a simple toolkit which asks you a few questions around different aspects of how you are managing your work, life, and well-being across different parameters. And it gives you a score. and it tells you which aspects of your well-being you're doing well and where you need a little more support. And it allows you to have a facilitated conversation with your line manager, where your line manager and your HR partner can support you. And we call this the well-being quotient. The third thing is really stepping up communication. At the best of times, we invest in a lot of engagement and communication. But in the last 5 months, real time, always on, transparent communication is the one thing that has kept us going. We have really increased the number of avenues through which we can listen to our employees. For example, employee surveys, which earlier happened at a 6-month frequency, are now happening at a fortnightly frequency, so that we can listen to people and take action in shorter cycles of impact. A final word on this is really about the role of leadership. In all of this, I think the most vital link is leaders who are amplifiers of culture. And again, at this time, it will be leaders who will amplify all the effort that we make to keep our workforce well and engaged. And therefore, we need to step up on making sure that leaders feel confident to lead through these tough times. First of all, leaders need to manage their own energy and well-being. And then they need to really create a psychological safety, a sense of a safe space where people can talk. The well-being quotient is one tool which can help. But really, a simple question where we encourage line managers to ask people, how are you? With no agenda, a call or a meeting, just set up to ask, how are you? Is the biggest tool that a leader has today, because when asked with genuine empathy and concern, that question can really help people, confide in you and share what they might otherwise be scared to do. I just want to close by saying that, whoever you are in the audience, whether you're a business leader, whether you're an HR leader, thank you for making the choice to attend this forum at a time when we have many, many conflicting demands on our time. The fact that you are here itself means that you are committed to change the conversation and the narrative. And I think very aptly titled, There is no better time. First of all, there is no tougher time to be a leader, but equally, there is no better time to realign, reform, and revitalize our workforce and workplace. And it's only our collective compassion, empathy, and creativity which will make it happen. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anuradha, for sharing the useful insights. May I now request Mr. the keynote address.
Thank you, Mrityunjay. Thank you, my friend Rusbe, chair of the HR committee, FICCI HR committee. Anuradha, meeting for the first time, but quite impressed with your views. I think this would take this summit to a better distance. As always, Manish, our friend, Mrityunjay, Vinti, all the participants, ladies and gentlemen. I think the way it has started, I think it's giving a fillip to the entire thing or entire process of this summit. I think we are only setting the tone in a brighter way. So I'm extremely happy that I am also a part of it, and I must reiterate what Rusbe told, that it could not have come at a more appropriate time. So thank you again, FICCI and the entire Manish and the entire group for really having this summit. See, friends, we are in the midst of an incidental situation today, and which we are calling it Corona. We all are fighting it, but at the same time, I was just seeing today's date, and incidentally, when I speak today, we are in the 75th year of atomic bombing at Japan, and we are in the midst of 2 bombs, 6th and 9th. So just remember, today what is happening also will be important for tomorrow. So in this condition, what situation are we in today? Most of us, larger population, feels that it is scary. But at the same time, I keep on repeating to everybody, when there is a challenge, there is also an opportunity. I think we will tide over it, but all the learnings that we have during this period must remain with us, and we must work on it. The June 2020 Global Economic Prospect describes both the immediate and near-term outlook for impact of pandemic and long-term damage it has dealt to prospects for growth. I think we all are agreeing that not only this period has been difficult, when we come out of it will be also more difficult. So we got to prepare for it. We got to prepare for it both individually, professionally, as well as a society. We must really be well prepared for that. We know that there will be downturns. There will be almost, it is expected there will be a degrowth of 5 to 5.2% of GDP into 2020. Some countries going up to 20-25% minus. India also equally facing the wrath. But at the same time, one fact which is underlying, or which really unites the entire globe today. I mean, this is very interesting, that everybody, whomever you speak to, every leader or anybody, whoever is at any place, is concerned about people's happiness, people's well-being. And the psychological optimism, which is now there at this point of time, I think would take us long. I am reminded of this Stockdale paradox, wherein James Stockdale, I think we all know about him, a prisoner in Vietnam War. He faced inhuman circumstances, but still he continued. He envisioned a better future. And that's what has to be there. And many of us are facing this paradox now, but we are all expecting a better future. But that will only keep our hopes alive. We must keep our hopes alive. We must continue with that. Rightfully, it is a time to realign our energies, reform our work practices, and as a result, revitalize the economy and the morale. And that's more important, that unless the morale is revitalized, we will not succeed, and we will not convert this challenge into an opportunity, which I believe. So this necessitated change in our skill set, which I feel have to be accompanied by change in our mindset as well. So skill at one end and mindset as one end, both these needs to be changed. As a business as well as an HR leader, I have always advocated an empathy-driven work culture, which I think Anuradha was also emphasizing on that. These 3 principles that have stood test of time in my 3 decades of work experience has been, I always quote it everywhere. This is 3 A's: my agility, adaptability, and alignment. I think if our decision making is prompt, if we are devoid of an inertia for movement and are swift in adapting, and if all our efforts are aligned with the larger business or larger vision of the business or the organization, I think we can encounter any situation comfortably. At this juncture, our strategies have to be carved out from short-term, medium-term, and long-term objectives. We have to start from a scratch. There are a lot of things which have become different. Smaller strategies taken by organizations have done wonders, will be doing wonders. Yes, as Anuradha was also talking, that we have to really understand and focus on power of purpose. We have to have that leadership purpose, staying with our people at all point of time. That needs to be realized, that needs to be there. I think I will just quickly cite a few examples, few illustrations from my organizations. Again, same thing, what Anuradha told. This is one point of time where it has become very important to communicate with people. Communicate, not that it was not important earlier. It has become more pronounced now. And communicate, give the authentic communication and give it out. This outreach, a lot of widespread out. It should be an widespread outreach. So as it is, as it happens in many organizations, through the senior leadership, through officials or executives at all levels, through up to the last level of a blue collar, this engagement has taken place. And I think this has not only reinforced our sentiment of care, sentiment of taking well-being of our people into the next floor. It has also given a confidence among each of the constituents of the organization that yes, we are being taken care of. As far as a medium-term perspective, we also, just one example, we had one teleconsultation app for medical, which was developed within a gap of, almost within 3 days or 4 days we developed. We never had one. And we knew that health is important. People would not like to go to any hospitals or any medical. And this has revolutionized the healthcare space for each one of us. And of course, whole world is talking of work from remote to WFR. And we know, we are in an essential services where we will have to have 60% of our people working at our place, at our factories, or at our refineries, at our pipeline, at our locations, and our stakeholders, our frontline COVID warriors like our LPG delivery boys have to reach to households. Every day we deliver around 10.5 to 12 lakhs of cylinders at households. That has to be delivered. So there has to be a contract. These people have to go. But how do we really take care of everything? At the same time, as far as own employees are concerned, how do we take care of this work from remote? I think these are the few things which we did, and this has got an impact. Before I conclude, one important thing which Rusbeh also started with, that we have to understand the psychological and mental well-being. I was recently reading one article by Deb Bubb and Joe and Ellie from IBM. They have quoted about signs of 5 emotional sufferings, 5 signs of emotional sufferings. I thought, let me just quote it quickly. That is, one is personality change. You will see a change which is happening in the person. Agitation. He's angry, he's uncharacteristically very angry, anxious, or moody. Withdrawal. Yes, that's a sign which is definitely there. Decline in personal care, doesn't take care of the well-being, and everybody thinks I'm at home, so why do I take care? That's one thing. And then hopelessness. I think these are certain things which needs to be looked at. And as a leader, as an organization, as a HR personnel, I think we must look for such signs and respond well in time. I am sure that many more options will unfold as the theme is discussed: upskilling and retraining of the workforce, and accelerating the digital agenda and bridging the digital divide. Are just a few that are coming to my mind at the time being. We have everything worked out in this in this 3 sessions which are coming up immediately after this. Just to conclude, overall well-being, whether it is mental, physical, financial, or otherwise, is extremely important for sustaining the person in you, the organization that thrives on you, and the society that values you. I think this is what could be the driver for each one of us. And I wish the summit a grand success, and look forward to some sustainable outcomes that can help us to realign, reform, and revitalize the economy and the workforce in future. Thank you very much. Thanks once again, Vicky, for having me here. And I'm sure that these sessions which are coming out of that, after this session, the 3 sessions which are coming up, will definitely give all the participants a thing to ponder on, and to really look at things prospectively and prospectively. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mahapatra, and all the speakers for setting the platform for engaging deliberation. We are sure that some of the key elements that you have highlighted on the mental well-being, psychological well-being, and financial well-being will be further deep dive into in the upcoming sessions. We take this opportunity to thank all our sponsors, and also especially the chair and co-chair of our committee and members of our committee for their continued guidance and support to make this conference a reality. We also take this opportunity to thank all our speakers who have accepted our invite and consented to be part of this event, and all the delegates who have registered with us. We hope that you will find our deliberations further interactive and engaging. Thanks a lot. Thank you all. And finally, the message to all the delegates that we are going to start the next session immediately after this. Just have 2-3 minutes break to change over with the speakers panel, and then we'll start the session. Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Efficient organizations are built with motivated and purpose-driven employees. Employees need clarity, growth, and motivation to perform at their best. And people managers understand and aim to provide the same. Challenges are many, and solutions exist in silos. A multitude of disconnected solutions lead to complex implementation and low adoption. Enter Impulse, a holistic solution for all your employee engagement needs. Connect, align, empower, and motivate your employees to build high-performance teams. Gather feedback, identify improvement areas, and take corrective action, all through one common platform. And with seamless integrations available with your existing work systems, getting started is a breeze. Zozo Day Impulse is designed for employees and people managers with the principles of the Deming cycle for continuous feedback and continuous improvement at its core. For employees, Impulse makes the workplace vibrant and connected, with continuous feedback, recognition, and perks. Managers can get a real-time pulse of their teams and take actions to move the teams forward. HR can listen to employees and uncover risks and opportunities to make a better workplace. CXOs can get visibility into organizational health and make right people decisions to drive better business results. Configure Impulse to suit your organizational structure. Whether you are a growing startup or an enterprise, build a truly engaged employee experience with Zozo Day Impulse.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining in. I think we are now starting the formal proceedings for today. We just had wrapped up the inaugural session, which you all were part of for the past couple of minutes. So we're starting the panel discussion on evolution of total well-being in COVID-19 times. It's about comprehensive well-being. And the sentiment which was actually flowing through the inaugural was that well-being will take a broader dimension going forward in the post-COVID world, where the elements of psychological well-being, physical well-being, emotional well-being, and financial well-being has to be taken care by the enterprises to strive, thrive, and survive in the new normal. With that, I would like, we are privileged to have the first panel with us, and it's my privilege to invite Mr. Srinivas PM, who's the head human resource for Procter & Gamble India subcontinent, Mr. Atul Joshi, who's the Vice President HR and Admin for Mahindra & Mahindra, Mr. Hari Thalapalli, who's the CEO for Call Health, Mr. Saurabh Kalra, who's the Senior Vice President Human Resources for Make My Trip, and Chandrasekhar BS, who's the head of Total Rewards, Adobe Systems India. So thank you all for joining in. Over to you, Srini, to take up for the panel now. We have been viewed by over 100 participants in the platform, and we look forward to an engaging session. Thank you, Srinivas. Over to you.
Thank you. Am I audible to you, Vinti?
Yes, very well.
Loud and clear. Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. And I think thank you, everyone, for joining this session. Hope you're all safe and healthy. I wanted to thank Fiki for giving me this opportunity to moderate this panel on a topic that is extremely relevant today and important more than ever before. So employee well-being has evolved from just being about a physical health to now being a total well-being. It is all about healthy body, happy mind, and meaningful heart. It is about vibrant living. A healthy body is about optimizing our physical strength and energy to meet everyday challenges and enjoy an active lifestyle. A happy mind is important in enriching our overall well-being, building resilience and mental well-being to enjoy the best in the life. A meaningful heart is feeling proud to be part of the organization connecting with others at home, at work, and in community who share similar interests and passion to bring out the best. We are joined by today a very diverse panel of speakers from across industry, sharing their experiences and insights on total well-being. So let me jump into the first question, and that will be: as we work remotely, what are some of the insights and initiatives on total well-being you would like to share with us? So I would just invite first Chandrasekhar, our eminent panelist, to share his thoughts.
Thanks, Srini, and thanks, Vicky. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so first thing I would like to start off, good morning. I hope you and your family is safe. So talking from the organization perspective, our global well-being vision, which is Adobe Cares, your well-being matters. We provide inclusive and a holistic experience to meet employees' well-being needs. I'm sure every organization is trying their best in terms of giving all the necessary support towards the well-being. At Adobe, we have got four pillars, which is the emotional well-being, financial well-being, physical health, and community. So let me start with what is that we are doing currently and how are we supporting employees. I'm sure everybody is in their remote workplaces. Adobe as an organization believes in transparency. The first thing to witness here is I would request every participant here to log on to benefits.adobe.com. You could see our policies, processes to do with benefits and well-being is transparent, and it can also be viewed by all external participants and members. So that's one thing I would encourage. Please go through it. We have created a specific COVID-19 resource support to all our employees. So one, employees could see what are the various benefits, helplines, dedicated support in terms of telecalling, the safety and security measures, what the organization is taking. So one is you need to go through that. What is that we are doing currently? When we started off way back in March, we introduced something called as grace period time off, where every employee can take about 2 weeks to settle down, to manage the crisis externally, to have all the necessary support at home. So that was introduced. So one, we realized that, okay, there is a need to give something called as COVID-19 time off, which is 20 days, which is on four basic parameters. One, in terms of the daycare services or elderly care is not available, employees could avail the COVID-19 time off. Or if any of the family members have got COVID tested positive, it can be parents, grandparents, siblings, even employee could avail COVID-19 time off, which is 20 days was introduced. Third, for all employees, we ensured that we need to give them support in terms of setting up their home office. So we announced initially $250 for all employees, contractors, third-party vendors, interns, trainees. We realized that the $250 was not sufficient enough to set up a home office, so we extended to $500 globally. So that means close to about 22,000 employees plus contractors, about 25,000 employees availed work from home expense fund, which is good. Employees have bought various things to do with ergonomic chairs, tables, broadband connections, UPS, and everything. So that's a good support what we have done. Couple of things what we have done. There are extensions what we realized employees need to have. One is a sabbatical extension, which every employee is eligible for 4 to 5 weeks of paid time off. We extended sabbatical extensions. We did extensions on paternity leave. We did couple of things. Global day off. It was almost like every 2 months we had a global day off. Couple of things like for people managers working schedule, like wow Wednesdays, wellness Wednesdays is what we have. And typically on a Friday, we say no meetings. So it's left to the people manager to decide and say that, hey, I don't want to have any meetings on Friday. So the team gets complete flexibility in terms of spending more time with the family members. I'm sure every organization has done. We have also delved into more in terms of virtual yoga and Zumba, 3 days of yoga and 2 days of Zumba sessions. We have given teleconsultation towards the get in touch with the doctor and other support things. So various things are evolving currently in the organization. So making sure that employees are equipped with two things. One is called as the Headspace meditation app, which employees could use that. Second, there's something called as a Life Dojo app, which it is a 12-week program in terms of creating one healthy habit, where I have got plenty of habits to select and I get a coach assigned and I can have a conversation and develop my well-being. So these are the couple of initiatives. I'm sure we will share more as this particular discussion goes on. Thank you, Shini, for this question.
Thank you, Chandra. Can I now invite our eminent panelist Atul to share his insights, please? Atul.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and thanks to Vicky for helping me with this panel discussion. So let's understand first the context. Where we are coming from. As Mahindra Financial Services sector, we are four companies. Mahindra Finance, which is largely into the vehicle finance, consumer finance, and SME lending. Then we have Mahindra Rural Housing Finance and Mahindra Insurance Brokers, and the fourth one is the Mahindra Asset Management, which is the mutual fund. So the Mahindra Finance and Mahindra Rural Housing Finance, which are the two large companies, are mainly into the rural domain. We have about 1,500 branches across the country with a workforce about 30,000. And 90% of our workforce is a very bottom of the pyramid workforce with feet on the street. Right, so they are the people who go to the villages, kind of sanction the loan, disburse the loan, and every month they would go to the customer and meet the customer to collect the loan. Right. Now, in this context, when the whole pandemic started and the work from home started, honestly, like most organizations, even we as an organization were not prepared. Because suddenly the work from home started, so there was no infrastructure at home for many people. There were IT issues, the basic, office desk kind of a thing was not there. Managers were not tuned and expert in terms of managing the workforce remotely. People who were like day in and day out in the field suddenly had a void, not knowing what to do because, they had to kind of almost lock themselves at home. So it created a very different kind of a situation. For the first 45 days, we asked our employees to be in touch with the customers regularly on the phone, and use that time to build a relationship. Now that to some extent, in some part of our organization, with employees feeling, with the uncertainty around what is going to happen with me. Am I becoming a call center guy? When I used to meet the customers on a day in and day out basis, am I becoming a call center guy? As the lockdown extended to the phase of unlocking, right? The mental situation of the employees underwent a further change. The branches started opening while HO continues to be work from home, but the 1,200 to 1,300 branches started opening. People started feeling, going into the field. And then the concerns which emerged were, okay, how do I go to the field? Will I get infected? There was a pressure from the family. Why you take a risk? So, it had to be addressed, very differently. And throughout this period, another concern which has been there on the mind of people, based on what they see in the newspaper, in the media, different organizations, how they are coping up, job losses, salary reductions. So will it happen to me, and so on. Now, in this context, the kind of actions that we took in the first phase of the lockdown and the second phase of the lockdown. I mean, like many organizations did, we also did actions to engage employees during the first 45 days to 2-month period. There were online fitness classes. There was a workout session, or how to weight, how to reduce weight, even while working from home. There were sessions related to mental wellness, yoga, meditation. We had virtual birthday celebrations of people, singing competition where all the employees across the country have participated. In some parts, particularly in our Mahindra Rural Housing Finance, we had an initiative called as a moodometer to really on a continuous basis gauge what is the mood of people, because it is very important to know what's going on in their mind in this difficult period. So apart from this physical and the mental things, what I feel what was very critical was the emotional well-being of people. And towards that, we ensured that throughout this period, the HR team as well as the leadership team has been in a continuous touch with the employees, understanding their concerns, not only with their employees, but their family members, providing them the comfort. we have a practice of a monthly webcast wherein on the first or second day of the month, and even during the lockdown we have continued that in a virtual way, wherein the managing director and the senior leadership team communicates with the entire workforce, and it's a very honest and a transparent communication, letting people know where does the organization stand, how things are moving, what kind of business issues we are facing, what kind of actions we are taking to deal with the business issues, and giving them a lot of assurance that the organization is there with you. If any need is there, feel free to connect with us, come back to us, use the social network of employees, the whole Mahindra ecosystem to deal with any problem that you have. Don't let it inside you. Because it was a pandemic situation, we also provided help in terms of a teleconsultation with a doctor, because people are in the remote areas. Sometimes they come in contact with somebody who was tested positive, and then they feel insecure. What will happen to me? What do I do? Whether I don't know, and then there's a kind of a panic. So they at least have a help in the form of a doctor to provide them the guidance. In case an employee is unfortunately tested positive, then there is a home quarantine package that we have given to people across the country. Since we have a large mass of employees in the Mahindra group based in Mumbai, at least for the Mumbai based people, we have even a COVID care center, a home quarantine facility created, because many people sometimes don't have a possibility of getting themselves home quarantined, and they need a different facility. So that kind of a help we have been able to provide to the total employee workforce that we have. And there is a rapid action force which has been created. So any concern is there, the immediate communication goes to the rapid action force, and we are able to kind of so just to say, we have dealt it in a complete holistic manner in terms of a physical well-being of people, the mental well-being of people, and particularly the emotional well-being of people, because in the times of uncertainty and the anxiety, it is very critical that emotional support is given to them and to their families.
Thank you very much, Atul. I think great examples shared by you. Thank you. We'll move to our third eminent panelist to answer this question. Over to you, Saurabh, for your point of view, please, on this.
Thanks, Trini. Hi, good morning, everyone. So just to set context, as Atul mentioned specifically about the particular industry, I think the travel sector, as all of us are aware, was badly impacted. I think our emphasis was more on not on measures that require a lot of investment, rather than stick to basics and do them well. That was the overall intent. I think we worked on 3 areas. One was enabling effective remote working. I think the second is building a feeling of association with the organization, which is very important during these times, and providing employees with flexibility to manage work and family. And assuming now, rather, we are working 5 months straight from home. So this becomes very, very important. I think as a tech company, remote working was not very difficult, if you ask me. However, we just ensured that the managers connect with the teams more often. And we also ensured that there are leadership connect session virtually done to acknowledge efforts of the team. Also, I think we as HR team learned how to move HR processes more to a virtual platform. To give you some examples, the reward and recognition ceremony, which always used to happen face-to-face, moved to a virtual platform. And then the feedback session every quarter moved to virtual platform through Zoom or through MS Teams. I think all of us leverage technology quite well in terms of building feeling of community within the organization, and people stay connected. In terms of, I think Chandra also mentioned that in terms of providing flexibility to manage work and family, in terms of providing leaves to the employees, I think this was not the case with us, because we always had an unlimited leave policy, and we always believe in the philosophy that employees should work in the best interest of the organization. So keeping that intent in mind, I think we empowered employees to take that decision in terms of leave and time off. And like most of the organizations had additional leaves, we didn't have that challenge specifically. we also had huge emphasis on health and well-being of the employees. Of course, things which are being spoken, like Zumba sessions or yoga sessions, we also did that. However, the participation is a challenge. So we got something which was very, very contextual, which employees really cared about. We spoke more about well-being through some of the experts. We got some experts through a digital medium. And we also offered EAP services to employees, which is your employee assistance program. Uh, Lastly, a lot of information we shared on ongoing basis on COVID with the employees. We also launched a 24-hour chat or a call service in partnership with our insurer. So I think in a nutshell, if I was to summarize, I think we worked on three things. One, how do we effectively ensure remote working? And then the feeling of association with the organization, assuming everybody was working remotely, plus the flexibility to manage work and family. I think these are a few things what we did.
Thank you, Saurabh. Now let me move on to our last and final eminent panelist, Hari, for your point of view on this question, please.
Thank you, Srini. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So once again, thank you to Vicky and to all of you on this call for having the patience to listen to all of us. I know it's not easy attending conferences virtually. Just introduce myself. I used to head human resources and then, of course, went on to do other jobs in my life for organizations ranging from 50,000 to 100,000 people in my past avatar. The last 5 years or so, I have been as a CEO of a healthcare company called Call Health. So the first point I want to make is that some of us who have been in the tech industry, and I'm sure some of you who are listening to this are from the tech industry, you would know that we have always lived a virtual life. I mean, I remember out of the 20,000 people I used to manage, almost 15,000 people used to be in the city other than where I used to be stationed. So practically you're used to working with people in different locations. The only difference now is that you're dealing with the context of a health pandemic around you. But the complexities around working with a leadership that is not in front of you is unique. And that's what we are really dealing with now. The first point I want to make to all of you as part of this conversation is, frankly, I know I'm going to sound a little contrarian, and that is because I believe we have the experience to say so. See, expecting an organization to do anything for your well-being to begin with is a pipe dream. And I don't want to sound so negative by saying that it doesn't mean anything. But what it means is that if you don't take care of yourself, if you have control over your own mind, forget what the company does, you're not going to be happy. What I would say is start the belief that the entire well-being is not very, very important perspective I want to leave in everybody's mind here. Because I've seen organizations, and I like I said, I ran human resources, 50,000 people. We had 5 emotional well-being counselors made available, and like what my fellow panelists just mentioned, oftentimes the takers for it was very low. It was not that there was no issue, but oftentimes these kind of services are not some that people come rushing in to take. So here is the first point. You have to tell yourself that this is a reality and nobody is going to be able to change it, including you. And reconcile to the fact that I will see the good that is available in this rather than worry about the bad that is all around it. Yes, your calls today go on till 9:30 and 10 p.m. Yes, there are times when on a Sunday afternoon, somebody wants to urgently have a conversation. Don't wish it away, because that is going to be the reality. That is how it's going to work. I can tell you that I work in a, my family has my daughter and the son-in-law work for one of the biggest tech companies in the world. My spouse works for one of the biggest consulting companies in the world. And I can only tell you that their work timings and their calls run through the evening, through the night. And I've seen them take calls at 11:30 in the night and so on. So to begin with, your life is not in somebody else's control. It is about how you feel about it. And if you say there is 11:30 call, tell yourself at 8:30 you're shutting down to live your life and do whatever you want to do. And at 11:30, get onto the call and smile in it. Don't get worried about it. Second point around that is companies often think that doing programs will give them will give their employees and their associates happiness. My answer is no. start with the premise that we will respect you as individuals irrespective of what. Because there are two kinds of people that we all know we exist. There are some who are self-driven, who you tell them what to do and they get it done, in spite of you not asking for maybe a week. And then there are other people who you have to ask every day, and chances are you still have to push them over the edge with a lot of effort. So there are different kinds of people. Organizations have to learn to respect individuals and genuinely accept the diversity of profiles that come in their lives. Without that, we can run Zumba programs, we can run stand-up comedies, we do Tambola, you can do all of that. But if I am going to be extremely, not so respectful of someone who's dealing with a child and a crying child during a call, or dealing with somebody whose pressure cooker is making a lot of noise when the call is going on, you will find that whatever we do as a program is not going to necessarily be accepted. So respect for an individual, respect for the complexity in which individuals are operating today, have to genuinely come in and be practiced. You can't say 4 of my leaders do it, but 6 of my leaders don't do it, and I will somehow pardon the 6 leaders. No, you have to be firm with the 6 leaders who are not showing the right kind of resilience to deal with these kind of complexities in other people's life. So to begin with, your happiness is not in somebody else's hand, not in the $1,000 that organizations are now giving you to buy a chair. It will give you a momentary pleasure. It is the respect for the individual and the complexity that they are dealing with, and the understanding that it's okay. I know you're failing in your delivery in this case, but let's work towards it. That hand-holding, that coaching, that mentoring is a very critical issue. Lastly, I would say, yes, as an organization, we have done many things, like many others in the conversation here. We did days off for people, no calls, etc. The problem is 60% of the population is probably happy with it, but 40% of the population says, what the hell am I doing nothing? I will keep calling. I need other things to do. You can't stop people from working saying it's a day off, because there are people who want things done. Similarly, I can do a 1-hour wellness program, but screw you for 7 hours of work. That's not helpful. So bring in that sense of participation and consideration to real life issues while doing a lot of these programs. My sense is that that is what will show value in the long run. I'm hoping that we will have an opportunity to discuss this further. I'll pause here now, Srini.
Thank you, Hari, for bringing a little bit more reality from a different point of view. Thank you for sharing your diverse perspective. So the COVID pandemic and the subsequent lockdown has been unprecedented time for all of us. Right? We're spending more time at home, sharing the load more than even before, and managing both home and work. And Hari was fair enough to give examples from his own family. My next question is based on feedback and concern that we heard from employees in the first few days of the lockdown, which is around engaging kids, family members during the initial period of lockdown. At PNG, of course, we drove to organize online hobby sessions, learning sessions, game sessions. 5 to 6 time was a very prominent time when the kids would look forward to join the session for family. So jumping to the next question, in your experience, how important is it to engage family members, and how important is it to the total well-being of employees? Can you share some examples of that from your work? And I would like to have invite Hari again first for any examples that you want to share on engaging family members.
Yeah, this is another very, very real stuff, Srini. For example, in my life, I have my son who is a lawyer who sits in one corner of the house and has the call, and my wife in another corner of the house, and then, of course, myself. Oftentimes, we have our audios conflicting each other, if you know what I mean, right? Yeah. She will suddenly put her hand down and say, shut down, slow down, it's affecting my call, and so on. Now, I have seen in my reviews with my team, I have a lot of youngsters in my team, and they have very young kids, 2 years old and sometimes 9 months old and so on. We have kind of created a law within our system, within the call health system, where if we are on video, and it's a completely optional issue, we say that you no dress for how it is. We have encouraged people to bring their families. The little child will be on the shoulder of the mother who's on the call, and we're perfectly okay. And many times we take 10 minutes to even discuss the child and how the child is growing up and how the child is comfortable. And some of us kuchiku on the phone with a little one. And so I believe, like I said, those little emotional connects. And this is not, we are not doing this because it is the right thing to do, or this is, how you should be, because we genuinely believe it is a life we are living. We have intruded into the living space now. We are no more, like somebody was saying, right? It's not work from home. We are living at work, right? So you are in a situation where you're inside people's bedroom, people's kitchen. There are people who walk around, or are doing something on the kitchen gas stove while they are talking to us, and that's perfectly okay. That's what I mean by diversity of reality. And we have encouraged children to participate in some of the calls, to sit and talk to us. And sometimes we ask them for their opinion and so on, especially if they are 15, 16 years old. We say, what do you think here? Ved, what do you think about this? So I'm saying this is very important for us to do. Keep that sense of connect is how I would put it.
Thank you, Hari. That's very insightful. Can I now invite Atul to share his perspective on engaging family members, please? Atul?
Sure. See, typically we say that, organization is a family, because, every employee spends about 10 to 12 or, maybe more hours in the organization. And when a new person joins in, we say, welcome to the family and so on. Right. Now, what has happened is, with the work from home, I think family has become a part of the organization. For the first time, I think, as Hari was saying, we got a chance to actually get into the house of the employees, because with the virtual calls, going on, and there's a family members moving around, which has become a normal and an acceptable kind of a norm, as people are getting used to work from home. And there is, of course, we had to do a lot of sensitization work in terms of letting people know that yes, it's okay if a child is coming on, if a person has to take a break in terms of taking care for a child or even for elderly parents. So overall family is certainly becoming a very critical element, because today family knows who you are in the office. So far they have not been seeing you work. For the last 4 months they have seen you work, so they know who you are in the office. So apart from the mental and emotional or physical well-being bit that we talked about, I think social well-being is becoming a very, very important dimension, because concerns of an employee, whether they are related to job security, salary, or health in terms of a COVID, in a way become the concerns of the family, or vice versa. If somebody is not well in the family, it's going to impact the individual employee. Right. So, it is very, very critical that family is also involved and engaged as a part of this process. And yeah, in terms of engagement, yes, we did, various initiatives in terms of competition, antakshari, or, virtual games. We had painting competition for kids. When we have evening sessions where typically kids also join in, and the kid of an employee, one employee would want to talk to kid of another employee. So those kind of things which we have allowed has helped in a way strengthen the family bonds much stronger. Because earlier, okay, typically you would have one family day, or the families of employees would meet the families of another employee maybe once in a year or twice in a year, right, when you had a specific event. So now they have a chance to really kind of connect almost on a day-to-day basis, or at least once in a week kind of a scenario. What we have done is, when we did the communication sessions, or say we had doctors doing webinars for the employees in terms of health, so we encourage families also to join. Because at the end of the day, many times it's the lady at the house who's going to take care of the food and other things in terms of the health issues. Right. So if we encourage the families to join in, we had virtual birthdays where we involved the families again. So there was a huge amount of a connect which has been there. As I mentioned about the connect, we ensure that our employees are tracking even the health of the families, particularly in the context of the COVID. So if so we know, and that a particular employee, somebody in the family has got tested or is not well, right? And the fact that organization is tracking the health of the families is so comforting to the employees that they know and feel reassured that if anything goes wrong, then the whole organization, not just to me, but anything goes wrong with my family, the whole ecosystem, is going to be there to support us. So, from that point of view, I feel it is very, very critical that employee families are also well connected and integrated in this whole journey as we travel.
Thank you, Atul, and thank you, Hari. Very well said. I know work from home or whatever you call it now is new to many of us, right? People are anxious with the dramatic changes and the uncertainty that is happening. One of the things we do at Procter and Gamble is to normalize this whole impact, right? So we've introduced something called a dedicated hours of no meetings, which is basically to look at a fixed timings when you can't have meetings beyond that time. And definitely with kids and everybody around, I think we have said at 12:30 to 1:30 time, no meetings, because at least they should have lunch properly to take care of their health. Otherwise, sitting in the room and doing the calls throughout the day would have that impact. Employees are customizing, of course, based on their needs and priorities, how they use these hours. We often have kids, of course, like what you all mentioned, kids, pets, all coming and interrupting. And we said, please don't say sorry now. It's part of normal. This is okay, right? So that's important, especially for the mental well-being of employees, so that they are focusing on work and not getting distracted. Who's coming in the video? Who's going out? Who's shouting? So it's all pretty okay. Before we move to the next question, I would encourage if anybody wants to ask the questions, please drop in your questions, and at the end, if you have time, we'll be more than happy to take it. I'll just move on to the next question, which is, how are you managing these anxious moments of truth for employees? And how are you managing this anxiety, which is arising out of the COVID-19 uncertainty? I would invite Saurabh first to share his point of view on that, please. Saurabh?
Yeah, thanks, Srini. So, Srini, I think employees, of course, are anxious, right? And I think two things what we have done. One, I think we have been very, very transparent in all our conversations with the employees. I think why they are anxious. One, I think there is some bit of insecurity, of course, and that's a very natural thing to come, right? So I think we have been very, very transparent with respect to that in all our conversation, have taken a front seat and participated in all communication with the employees. To that extent that last month we did business updates with all our business leaders in terms of what's happening and how we are progressing. So we are talking about a business which in terms of travel industry, the flights were not operating, people were not staying in hotels, the business was technically zero. Now from there, we are moving to a stage where flights are opening up, people have started staycations, and people have started using ground transport, which is essentially trains, buses, etc. So we have been very, very transparent to them in terms of what's happening in the industry and how things are opening up. Also, wherever possible, we are supporting our employees in terms of financial needs by giving them soft loans. Also, involving them in a lot of community work. One such thing which I would like to talk about is the path-breaking app from the concept stage, which our employees developed in partnership with working closely with the government, Arogya Setu, where we had 50 million users under 2 weeks, making it fastest app downloads globally, right? So I think three things I spoke about. One, transparent conversations, supporting employees in terms of financial needs. Secondly, involving them in a lot of community work, and also helping them going through the stage. So that's from my side.
Thank you, Saurabh. Can I now request Chandrasekhar to provide his point of view on managing anxious moments of truth for employees? Over to you, Chandrasekhar.
Hey, thanks, Srini. I'm sure in the current situation, everybody is concerned on various aspects, work, life, things at home, what's happening in the surrounding. So a couple of things what we are trying to equip our people managers. There are specific sessions which is being done by our leadership team to talk about in terms of flexi schedules. Like everyone are talking that, yes, we have to be flexible, no matter of the background, the new normal needs to be. accepted by all. So we have got various resources for people managers in terms of tips and tools where they can go and refer. There are quick 5 tools. Let's say we say something like Take 5. They get a quick update in terms of what's happening. What I would really like to highlight here is our CU and CHRO has come out in various business updates and also been talking to employees saying that, hey, we will be one of the last few organizations where we'll be going back to office. So now our projection of returning to work is somewhere on Jan 6th, sorry. So that may not be the date. So we are completely flexible in terms of going back to office. There's no pressure. Even we have got all various lines of business. Being a tech company, we have got 24/7 tech support. So that is also being operated in a remote workplace. So you don't need to be there. So we're trying to equip a lot of our employees in terms of flexibility. There are global well-being series like Mind Over Matters, ensuring that even families participate as part of the well-being series. We do also ensure that there are EAP counseling services. We have enhanced from 6 to 10 free sessions, not only for an employee, even for family members. So people could avail. We all agree there are a lot of bachelors and spinsters. Maybe they're not staying with their parents. They're all in remote correction. There may be a lot of burn rate. So obviously there is a flexibility. I think the mantra from the management is make sure that everybody is supported, give them all the resources possible, deal with empathy. So that's the mantra I would see that going forward. We need to sustain through till the time wherever we find the lucky vaccine, the strains being released in whichever part of the country and the treaty what is associated with us.
Yes, well said, Chandra. We're all waiting for that. And I think it's all about resilience, how you go about it. Thank you. Moving on to the next, topic for discussion is now coming specifically to meaningful heart. I think we spoke a lot about mind and body, so about heart. Employees look for opportunity to serve the communities where we work and live. It creates a feeling of pride. This also means that they're connected with others at home, at work, and in community, and who share similar interests and passion to bring out the best. So, how important is this in your experience? I will invite Chandra again for your comments first, please.
Okay, sure. A couple of things as one of the strong pillars which I mentioned was community. Now, what are the things what we have done as part of the Adobe and Women Employee Network and CSR? We have asked our employees to mentor female car drivers on the financial savvy in terms of how do you operate, let's say, various apps, and also in terms of talk about the phone security. So that's one of the things what we have engaged. We have given 1 million free licenses to the Ministry of Education, which is to do with Spark, where kids or children can apply in terms of private and public schools. So that's what we have done to the community. The third thing is there's something called as Learn at Home with Adobe. So we have taught kids under age group of, let's say, 8 to 12 to create motion comics using all the Adobe products in terms of their homemade superheroes or villains, right? So that's what we're trying to do in the community. Like every organization believes in terms of charity. Now, example, if I have to talk from the Indian context perspective, there is a donation of 1 million towards Akshay Patra and American Indian Aid Association, right? Plus, we say that every 10 employees who participate in an event, so we do 1,000 grand in terms of matching up. So there's a lot of things what we're doing in terms of outside the community. So there is a huge focus in terms of not only internal, we would like to also go external because we are a product-based company. Whatever we could do the best in terms of people could leverage the product externally. So we are making sure that that goes on from an external participation.
Thank you, Chandra. Can I invite Hari for your point of view on this, please?
Yeah, so I have to confess that we have in Call Health we are a 200 people company, actually 150 to be precise. The remaining are in the call center. So we don't have too many stories of how we have been able to influence the world outside. I think the fact that today we are in the healthcare business, so the fact that we are able to go to people's homes and do a COVID test and take care of the families that, or the employees who are doing it, that itself for us is quite a consuming task at this stage. But I've had a few people in our organization who seem to be doing outstanding work within their communities, whether it is in terms of collating, let us say, grains and vegetables for some of the migrant workers and some of the lower strata of society. And we have from the organization side being supportive of it. But I have to confess, I don't have great stories of how we have altered because we're too small and we don't have the size and wherewithal to do that. But we have made heroes of these few people who are doing some excellent work in spite of everything else that they are doing around at work. So them, we are acknowledging, we are appreciating, we are making them know that this is something that is extraordinary. And yes, we need to do more, but I don't have great stories there, Srini. That's the truth.
Fair enough, Hari. I think it's a very good, diverse perspective. One from an organization, from Chandra, and from your organization, where you're empowering people to do something on their own and encouraging them, whereas some are leading it from an organization level. I think both are required during this pandemic to serve the community. So thank you both for sharing your stories. I'll just move on to the last question. I will just spell out the question. Are you exploring any other avenues for the well-being of employees? Right. So, for example, one of the things at Procter & Gamble we have introduced, where we have got a very good, participation, is called Wellness Wednesdays, where we're not just covering body, mind, and heart, but also looking at financial well-being of employees. Right. So they're much more holistically covered. So if you can just share one odd thing that you're doing in your organizations, that will be great. So I can just invite first Chandra to share quickly anything he has from his side, please.
Okay, so we spoke a lot about emotional, physical health, and yeah, there is a focus in terms of financial well-being. We have just released an article in terms of what is the checklist you need to look for a financial advisor. So there is a huge focus on it. So the next close to 6 months to 18 months, sorry, the focus is on financial well-being. Now, there are a couple of things what we are also doing. I think the focus is more in terms of gratitude campaign, which we would like to do for the next 6 months. We would like to talk in terms of ergonomics support. See, things are evolving, right? We need to be something, I would not say leading or unique. I think we should be able to give resources. I think that's the bottom line. Like how Hari, Saurabh, and Atul said, I think we need to make sure that we can give all those employees can have leverages, or in terms of resources, it's left to them. What is that I need to use at this point of time? Is it applicable to me? Can I cater the needs to my family? I think that's the whole focus. Things are evolving. I'm sure everybody is in a different thinking cap. Hey, what should I do different? How to make the new normal more easier to access or available. So yes, there is a focus in terms of gratitude campaign and financial well-being.
Thank you, Chandra. Can I now invite Atul to share his perspective, please?
Sure. As you know, the new normal is the new term which is coming up, and everyone is talking about what's going to be the future of work, and what's going to be the future of skills, and so on. Now, in that context, what we are focusing, and rather I will say we are utilizing this time with the employees in terms of what I would call as a professional well-being. Because everybody is at the end of the day concerned about their careers, their growth, and so on. So we are encouraging employees that they should utilize this time for their upskilling or reskilling or whatever we may say, and enabling with through a plethora of training courses that we are providing them. See, we are promoting as an organization, Mahindra Finance as an organization, we are promoting to go for more digital payments instead of our people going into the field and collecting the money. Now, if my employee has to go and convince a customer to make a digital payment, first, I want my employee to be digitally savvy. So we are utilizing this time to really upgrade their digital skills, as far as the mass of employees in the field are concerned. At mid-management level, we have tied up, with McKinsey, where we are doing, certain programs which are fairly tailored for them. And we are also offering various certification courses through Coursera, edX and all, which people are utilizing, whether it's in design thinking or any other course. People are really utilizing this time in terms of their professional development. Another area that we have used, in this, so-called lockdown period is getting people to do a lot of projects, which they can do even sitting at home. And so a lot of research work that they can do, a lot of models that they can study and come up with some frameworks. So a lot of projects people are working. So these are different things which we are kind of focusing on in terms of a professional well-being, what I call, apart from what we have talked of physical, mental, emotional well-being. Of course, there is a financial well-being, in terms of we are doing the courses related to what we call as a financial literacy. So overall, it's the focus is on professional well-being of employees.
Thank you so much, Atul. Can I invite Saurabh to share his perspective, please?
Yeah, thanks, Srini. So I think, as Chandra and Atul mentioned, a lot of emphasis on professional growth opportunities at this point in time. So, for example, we are also extending a lot of online programs to folks in terms of helping them take care of or work on certain projects or work on certain critical stuff for which we usually don't get time during the normal times. Also, we are doing ideathon across various functions where we are encouraging people to share ideas and working on those ideas, which is one great way of building innovation culture in the organization. The last thing, Srini, we also need to understand there are also employees who want to come back to office, right? They are really tired sitting at home. However, safety first for employees. All of us have been saying December, Jan, but there are employees who call me and who tell me, can I go to office? I think a lot of stuff on well-being in terms of maintaining our offices are open, right? That's the first thing. We are not pushing employees to come to office. That's the second thing to emphasize, especially people who have small kids, old parents, or who use the public transport. We don't want to push them. However, having said that, we have ensured that we have enough social distancing norms, or we are taking care of workplace and making it safe place to work in case any employee wants to come voluntary to the office. So I think these are few things which we have been doing.
Hey, thank you, Saurabh, for adding the part about keeping the office and the workplace safe, because as I leave my home myself, the family is always asking the question, right? The son is always asking the question, have you sanitized? Are you going to be careful and things, because these are all unprecedented times. Thank you, Saurabh. Moving on, Hari, for your perspective, please.
Yeah, so I think 2 or 3 points from my side, Srini. One is that, we have not really been enabling any specific programs for people, but we have actually told those guys, listen, guys, this is the best time for you to upgrade yourself, right? I mean, there is work, there is stress, but if you are interested in doing whatever, there is a certain funding available. Please go ahead and do those programs. Whatever you want, you just discuss with your boss and do that. So we have given a financial threshold and we have left the flexibility down to the guys to deal with whatever. The second point, and here is my important observation. I'm sure this is not good news for a lot of real estate and related companies. We used to have 60,000 square feet of space. I've brought it down to now 10,000 square feet of space that we will operate from. And I've taken about, in between 2 co-working spaces, I've taken about 50 or 70 seats that will be available. Practically all other office spaces we have let go. And this is what this means is, we believe, one, there is a cost reduction. Second is, most importantly, I think there is a productivity improvement, and people seem to be enjoying this whole thing. And Saurabh is right that there are some guys who want to run out of home because every day their mother is asking questions, wife is asking questions, and there is obviously the sense of stress that they're dealing with sitting around with the same people all day. But we are telling them that you don't have the choice. In fact, to the extent that, except for a few operations people, anybody going to office has to get an approval in our case. We don't allow them to go to office. We don't want them in office. That's the second point. The third point, and I think this is very important, this is my personal message to all of you, based on what I believe has worked for me. You see, today my calls started at 9:30 in the morning. I see my last call ending at 9 p.m. in the night. Now, if you let your day go, it can go pretty much like this throughout the day. And every day, it can be tomorrow, I can already see 4 hours blocked out. Now, here is how I work. I decide to create lung spaces in my life. I call them lung spaces in my calendar. I just block out 1 hour slots or 2 hour slots in between where I completely make it not available. I notice if somebody wanted an appointment at, for example, 10:30 today, I will say, sorry, I have a booking with Vicky. I can't really make the time available. And everybody understands it. But if you have a free calendar, you tend to populate it throughout whenever people keep. If you block out few lung spaces and say this is not available, and you have to morally deal with it yourself, that's all. You realize you can actually find those little spaces, and that clears your mind to do things whatever you want to do. I think people are now tired of cooking. Maybe it's painting. Maybe it's just sleeping. Maybe it's just watching a movie. You have no clue how many times I watch Netflix at 3:30 in the afternoon. I have no problem, no guilt. 3:30 to 4:30, I watch a Netflix serial, I shut down and then go back to working. And what I'm trying to say is, in today's world, work life has moved into your personal life. So don't hesitate and don't feel guilty about taking a bit of your personal life into the work hours, because they're all fused now. And it is all in your hands. It's not with anybody else. And that's my message. And that's the well-being I would talk about.
Thank you so much, Hari. Yeah, I think that's a good session to block off some time. We have one question, which is we'll take in the interest of time. The question is, what are you doing to create confidence back to employees/family that when an employee goes to office, he's safe from infection, right? So I'll just kickstart it and then I'll invite Atul for perspective quickly. I think raising the standards in the workplaces and ensuring that we have done the right due diligence to ensure the environment that we are inviting our employees, whenever we invite them, is meeting the highest standards. I think that one is my responsibility personally to go and audit and check, and my CEO's responsibility. We cannot delegate that authority and ensure the standards are high. Of course, there are regulations that have been put in place, but I would urge people to look at what is important for their own context and set the thermal screening to social distancing norms and adhere to it 120%, at least so that you're confident that this is being safe. Atul, anything you want to add on, and then we can wrap up. Thank you.
Sure. So when the opening up started and the branches started opening, there has been a concern from the families for the right reasons. We send a message that even though your family is feeling uncomfortable, we will not force an employee to come to us. Right. Now, in terms of sanitization, obviously, as per the protocols, we have done the complete cleaning up, sanitization, all that has been done. But the guidelines have been issued, every organization has done. What we have done, I would say, differently is considering the kind of a workforce that we have in Mahindra Finance, we created a very simple audio-visual, animated audio-visual of the guidelines which have to be followed, the preparation which has been done in the office in local language. So, and that was circulated on a WhatsApp. So, the employees could show that to their friends, and that kind of created a lot of confidence in terms of what is going on in the office, what kind of a care the organization is taking in terms of making the office ready. Since we are in the business of dealing, if I have to say, with money, for security reasons, all our branches have CCTV cameras. We are in the current situation using CCTV cameras to ensure that there is a social distancing norms followed, because we have said that at any point of time there cannot be more than 3 or 4 people in a branch. Whether people are wearing the mask, and whenever there has been a kind of a deviation of it, has been kind of communicated back to the circle and the regional head for that branch. So message has gone that it is being treated very seriously, and that gives confidence to both, I will say, employees as well as to our customers.
Got it, Atul. Thank you so much for sharing the perspective. That's why I think it's a different perspective from a corporate office where I have to role model and do things, and from a retail outlet. So I think with that, I wanted to thank the panelists for a very engaging and a rich ideas that they have shared. So it's all about a healthy body, happy mind, and meaningful heart. That's it from our side. And thank you very much, Vicky, for organizing this and giving us this opportunity to share and give back to the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vinti. You're on mute, Vinti. Vinti, you're on mute, I think.
We can't hear you, Vinti.
Yeah. No.
No, we can't. We can't still hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Yes, we can.
Go ahead.
This is technology for you. So thank you so much, Shini. Thanks, Hari. Thanks, Atul. And thanks, Saurabh, for joining in. And I think the way the entire discussion was fenced around a healthy heart, a healthy body, and healthy mind, that goes out to you for Shini to construct the entire conversation in such in these constructs. Thank you so much. And now we move on to the second panel on financial well-being. This was on the total well-being. Now we are just going to specifics, and we are now going to discuss financial well-being. And now we have Rishi Khandelwal, who's heading the compensation and benefits at Microsoft India. He'll be moderating this panel. Welcome, Rishi. We have Shubha Lakshmi Ganguly, who's the Director for Global Sales Compensation in Asia Pacific Rewards, Lenovo. Shubha Lakshmi, we would want to see you. Please switch on your camera. We have Ruchita, who's the Vice President HR. And HRBP for Enterprise Business Technology Service, Guardian India. We have Kushal, who's the Chief of International Expansion at XOXO Day. So over to you, Rishi, for the moderation of the session. Thank you all for joining in. Over to you, Rishi.
Thank you, Vinti, and hi, everyone. And first of all, thanks, Vicky, for inviting us to this panel discussion on financial well-being, centered around realigning and reforming total rewards. Before we dive in, let me just start with a quick introduction of our panelists today, and we have a very strong panel here today. Our first panelist for today is for the session is Ruchita Sharma. She's currently the Vice President HR at the Guardian Life Insurance Company. Ruchita is a change and a technology evangelist in the HR landscape, and she has led various capacity building projects, often extremely dynamic setups. And prior to being CHRO at Guardian, she's worked in organizations such as Fidelity and GE. So hi, Ruchita. Good to have you in the discussion today. Our second panelist is Shubha Lakshmi Ganguly. She is Director, Global Sales Compensation and APAC Rewards at Lenovo. Shubha Lakshmi also has close to 20 years of experience in leading compensation and benefits assignments and mobility function in global corporations. Prior to Lenovo, she's worked in organizations like Mercer, Honeywell, GE, and her expertise lie in the area of compensation, specifically with respect to defining reward philosophy, organization-wide design of compensation and benefit policies, incentive design, workforce planning, HR analytics, and expatriate compensation. So that's a very healthy mix of experience from Shubha Lakshmi here. And finally, our third panelist for today is Kushal Agrawal. He is the Chief of International Expansion at XOXO Day. And he's an MBA from Wellinger and has worked with African FMCG Bidco oil refineries in sales, distribution, and marketing arm. So very different kind of experience in a combination of HR, compensation, and business experience in the panel today. So I welcome all of you panel members to this discussion. Good to have you all here today, and looking forward to the insights on understanding, realigning, and reforming financial wellness in the current scenario.
Thanks, Rishi.
So before we, yeah, thanks. Before we start, let me just set the quick context here. Financial well-being entails having control over one's finances on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis, having the capacity to absorb financial shocks, being on track to meet financial goals, and having the financial freedom to make choices. Uh, in the current situation, the pandemic has brought forward the need for us to focus on it even more rigorously because of anxiety and stress some of the employees may be facing around job security, financial future, constant media reports around layoffs, pay cuts, unemployment, salary freezes, again adds to the anxiety and stress. Hence, the topic becomes very more relevant in the current times. While all of you and everyone may not have actually felt the full impact of current economic conditions because the impact has landed differently in different industries. Some of the high-tech firms may not be as badly impacted as, let's say, some of the other firms in the manufacturing or services space. But the impact, it is still important for us to be grounded and balance the short term and the long term. So the objective of this today's session is to understand how employees can better support, how employers can better support their employees' financial wellness in times of crisis, but also in general. Okay. So with this, what I'll do is I would probably start with calling on Kushal. So Kushal, at XOXO today, you have gathered deep insights on overall engagement and wellness and financial wellness parameters and how they correlate to engagement in the organizations. Can we please start with you sharing a few insights and your learnings basis the work that you've done in that area?
Sure. Thanks, Rishi, for that wonderful introduction and briefing. Thanks, everyone, and it's great to kind of connect with you. So talking about Zozo Day first, we as a company, we kind of help HR, CXOs, and the sales heads of the companies to kind of manage and build their incentives and reward programs. And interestingly, last year we launched a feature called as Pulse Survey. And this Pulse Survey, what it does is it actually replaces all your year-end typical long surveys with 100, 200 questions to small pulse kind of checks. And it has been sent to various employees in the organization, and it collects that information and answers from those employees. And it showcases the results in 4 major dimensions. The 4 major dimensions being: number 1, strategic connect; number 2, career and growth; number 3, hygiene factors; and number 4, relationship and culture. These are 4 major dimensions where it actually captures the information or the responses from the employees. And these 4 major dimensions are again divided into 16 to 17 sub dimensions, I would say, or micro dimensions, I would say. And all these questions which we have built it with one of the leading HR researchers, an organization which actually researches about the HR and the employee well-being processes, etc. And interestingly, we have found that this data which I'm showing is on the basis of 350,000 users, and it has been deployed across 120 companies. And interestingly, I've got the analytics that the NPS score, the Net Promoter Score, pre-COVID, that is from Jan 2020 to I would say 30th of July 2020, has been dropped by 18%. And it's a significant number which has not been kind of visible in the recent recent times. And the major detractors for this NPS score has been the hygiene dimension, which out of those 4 dimensions, hygiene dimension was one of the dimension, and that has shown a high impact in the overall kind of analytics. and it has been impacted by around 32%. So if you average out all the dimensions, hygiene factors has been highly impacted. And when you analyze and go deep into the hygiene factors, it can be divided into 5 major sub-dimensions. The first being the role clarity, the second being the financial safety, third being physical safety, fourth being psychological safety, and the fifth being structures and policies. So when we double click on the hygiene factor, these are the 5 sub dimensions over there. And if I talk about each dimension individually, the role clarity has been impacted by 20%. Where this is what we sense is due to the recent org restructuring which is happening, layoff news which the employees see across, there are some salary cuts, etc. So due to which the entire organization's roles are changing. In our organization as well, in Zozoday, we have kind of given some new roles to different people. And that is where the employees are getting a bit unclear on their roles. That's the first point. And this role clarity has shown 20% impact in the overall kind of hygiene factor. The second part is financial safety. So how the employees are perceiving the financial safety as, and rightly due to this pandemic, layoffs, etc. Businesses have started saying that the compensation structures has to change now. So previously it was 80% fixed and 20% variable. Now it has to change because the businesses has been impacted, and it has to be switched, or it has to be kind of moderated. So financial safety, in terms of financial safety, there is a drop by 45% of the 45% of the people actually feel that they are not very secure about the financial aspects. Then the third part is the physical safety. Here's the stats which I got, that the working hours of every employee has increased by over 45 minutes every day, and overall, they have been spending too much time on the laptops and digital devices, which is actually creating kind of fatigue, and creates a big impact on the psychological safety, which again is impacted by over 40%. And the psychological safety is something which has been a big kind of detractor for the employees, and the people employees have complaints about the mental wellness and problems with eyes, digestion, etc. Right. And then the fifth part is structures and policies. This has been least impacted because we have seen that the companies have shown empathy towards the employees, and have to kind of taken measures to kind of stop things. But yes, these are some of the stats which have been able to generate, where hygiene factor has been a major kind of detractor in the overall employee and financial well-being. And yes, psychological safety and financial safety are two micro components which has been kind of impacted the most. So I'll share some of the initiatives which the companies have taken to kind of get rid of this situation. But yes, I can probably speak a little while I hear from you, Rishi, Shubha.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks, Kushal, for sharing these insights. Very valuable. Basically, what you're saying is you're reinforcing the fact that the hygiene factors, which includes financial and psychological safety, has shown a significant decline, which has resulted in decline in NPS scores. So, and that's quite understandable looking at the situation that we are in. My question to Shubha and Shubha Lakshmi and Ruchita now is that earlier in the earlier days, most organizations only focused on base pay, bonus, or incentives to define financial wellness. the focus on financial well-being has increased in the last few years, and definitely by what stats says that Kushal shared in the last few months. And it will be good to understand how your respective organizations have evolved over time to approach financial wellness more holistically. So we can start with any one of you, whoever wants to go first.
Rachita? As you say. All right. So talking about, Rishi, I'll take a step back since you said that earlier the organizations used to focus on base pay and bonus. I think if you actually look at the industry in 1950s, 1940s, and I'm not talking about the quantum of benefits, but financial well-being was a very deep part of our offerings. And that was something which was part of our DNA also. We knew how to work on savings. We knew how to work on expenses, and consumerism was not the order of the day. So the era you are referring to, Rishi, is actually which came around 1990s or late 1990s, and it has been something which has been last 20 years. We are sitting at this situation right now, even if I have to look at it pre-COVID, is because we have eroded that knowledge and that intelligence also, where saving was part of our mental system. We are more high on consumerisms. If I look at the youngsters, and irrespective of your financial strength or financial backing or your earning ability, consumerism is huge and high. Online shopping has kind of added to the whole thing. Showing money and quick cash is the fastest way of hiring by a lot of companies. Because of the pressure of hiring, you quickly show something which you'll get like today, and you say, that money will come to you 8 years later, 10 years later. Why do you want to wait for that? So that is one big issue in the element. So it's a cycle which is coming, and the cycle has come not because it's the flavor of the season. It has come because eventually with that erosion, we started seeing stress come into the system. The credit card issues started coming. People started feeling that lack of insufficiency, no money was enough, and that led to health issues. So eventually organizations started realizing that if we have to deal with this stress, if we have to deal with this productivity, we will almost have to be parents to these youngsters. And there is a portion which possibly was part of parenting at some point in time, at least when I was growing up, is something which will be something as a role we will need to play now. So that's one part which is very important, which I would say we need to look at it, and hence it becomes critical to have that discussion. Second is, I think the whole competition of hiring very quickly and hence cash being important, and people not really giving tenure. So if you want healthy financial being and a company to kind of help you and support you in that, it's very important that you are actually staying for some time. You know how much financial well-being you can really provide to your employee if they are there for you with you for 2 to 3 years, which is where if you see the offerings in the market. While I hear what Kushal was saying, I spent an extensive 1 year, around 18 months back, extensive, I'm not exaggerating, figuring out what all options are there in the market. And 85 to 90% were about training and awareness, which eventually told me that the responsibility of working on this sits with me, and I'll have to do something on planning on it. So I'm just setting that context, Rishi, since you mentioned it. It's not trivial, it is deep rooted. We had it coming for almost 30 years, COVID or no COVID. And it maybe COVID has just facilitated the case of financial being a little better, and we would be able to, especially Shubha, it'll be a lot more, life would be a lot more easier when you're explaining the benefits part of it. From a company standpoint, we can talk of many things. I do come from a company which is fairly young in India. While we are 250 Fortune 250 and 150 years of successful record back in the history, we look at it. I think one thing which has worked very well for us is our core value, which is people count. So for us, hence, we are always on the lookout of what works for our employee and what is important. And it's very obvious that cash is not the only thing which will work for us. So I'll let Shubha pick it. I know that we are less on time rather than get into specifics, but one part which I leave with you is positive parenting. I don't think so we can let go of that, and finance is a big part of that parenting. So Shubha, all yours, and maybe I can add to it after you say.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
So
Shubha.
see, I'll take a step back, and I've been in Lenovo for more than 9 years now. So a lot of my experience comes from the journey that we have seen as an organization, which has been pretty high performance and high pace, both coming together, not forgetting the sustainable growth that we are talking about. And we are like spread over 137 offices in 61 countries. We have manufacturing set up across 9 countries, R&D set up. So we are pretty diverse organization in terms of the global footprint. So whenever we have to define our compensation strategy, we need to look at an entire gamut of things together. So the building blocks probably can't change dramatically, like your components of rewards or financial wellness. To a certain extent, they will be there. Like if you talk about the pay mix, which is your risk versus reward, based on the roles. You talk about your base salary. Somewhere it has to be very traditional. You can't mess up with that much. You do your industry benchmarking, you do your percentile positioning. Those are the tweaks that you can talk about. Incentive design. Now, especially for a company like Lenovo, which is a purebred technology company, been doing inorganic growth of late, different businesses are at different stage of evolution. So the incentive program, which is, I would say it's pretty key to a company's success, has to be designed based on, the country, that market we are addressing, the people that we have to deal with, the ambition of that particular business, all of that. And we've been pretty entrepreneurial in terms of our incentive plan design. So we can do a lot of tweaks over that, being within the global guideline, but having the local flexibility. Then we have long-term incentives. Again, we have a global guideline with a local flexibility, and then benefits, allowances and benefits. Now, COVID or no COVID, I think we need to understand how we can leverage each of these building blocks and address the demographic requirements or the company's goals and objectives, how we have to align with the company's goals and objectives. So what COVID has done to us, yes, I mean, the majority of our focus due to COVID has shifted towards benefits. And when I talk about benefits, it's financial, it's the emotional benefits, and a bit of the hygiene, infrastructure support, and all of that. So we've historically been a work from home company. I mean, a lot of people go to office, but that's because as humans, we are social beings, right? We like to go to office. That's a different thing. But now it has been a mandate that you have to work from home. We don't have an option. So the change that we see is not changing the building blocks, but tuning those building blocks to the environment that we are in today. What kind of communication we have done. A lot of benefits we already had, which we had to over communicate because that was somewhere lost in communication, lost in usage, and all of that. And few additional benefits we had to introduce. So in short, I would say the evolution has been towards the needs of the company's growth objectives and towards the demographic, and being agile to address all of that together with the local flexibility and empowerment that we have.
Sure. Thank you. So let me just draw conclusions from what I have heard from both of you. Ruchita, you started with a very valid point about the fact that the problem that we find ourselves in is mostly due to the recent consumerism trend, where we started investing at a click of a button or spending at a click of a button, which has led to a lot of problems. And most importantly, we've eroded our knowledge in the current times around what it means to be financially well, and what it means to consume in the right manner. Shubha, you spoke about a very important point of making the hygiene and the traditional factors of base incentive and long-term incentive, short and long-term incentive in a proper manner that stays intact for the organization, because that forms the core of financial well-being. But what is also essential is how agile you are in responding to the situations like this and help employees in addressing some of the other equally important benefits which will help them manage the financial well-being scenario better and lead to reduction in anxiety and stress and so on. So that was a very valid point. I just wanted to add from my perspective, what Microsoft is doing is the way we look at financial wellness for us is going on the same line as Ruchita. The objective or the purpose of our financial wellness program is to reduce financial stress through healthier financial decisions. And we aim to build programs and have a reward philosophy in place, which will help people also exhibit, proper financial behaviors. Right? We've only, we realize that only focusing on base incentive and long-term incentive may not be enough, because a person probably earning 50 lakhs a year may still be in financial distress as compared to a person earning half the salary, because he or she has made the right choices, right? So that's why we have realigned in the recent times our programs on focusing more on driving the right financial habits and behaviors and opening doors towards understanding that better. Okay.
Yeah.
Kushal, any points from your side in terms of how is XXA Day, looking at this from your perspective? I mean, it's a new age organization with a lot of, I think, millennials. So that problem may be still even more compounded in your organization.
Yeah. So Rishi, in organizations like Zozoday, where we are in a growth trajectory, and we are say around 250 odd employees. We actually have seen the COVID type situations almost every year. So this is nothing new for us. That okay, we have to kind of fight back, or this is an exceptional situation. I would say that the issues or the impact is visible more in larger organization, because they have larger kind of cash construct to kind of cash outgo and the needs of the overall piece. But when you see startup world, if it's in the software line, or if it's in, let's say, essentials line, we are hardly seeing an impact. But interestingly, I'll share one of my screen, and I'll show you a short industry. Oh, okay. Can I get an access to just show my screen? I just wanted to share a picture.
Yeah, if someone can make
I'm not sure how you do
Kushal
that.
can, yeah, if someone can make Kushal the host, probably he'll be able to share his screen. Nimisha, Gaurav, you can do that quickly.
Yeah, I think it's okay. So
Why don't you
I
share the
actually
insights with us? Yeah.
Sure. So we actually studied different industries which are impacted by COVID, and we have made a short infographics around it, where the medical supply and services have been the potential winners of this overall kind of COVID pandemic. And if we see a couple of other industries like the food processing, personal and healthcare, ICT devices, e-commerce. So these are some of the industries which are least impacted. And some of the potential losers of this COVID time is tourism and leisure, aviation, automobiles, construction, real estate, manufacturing, some bit of oil and gas, etc. So I wanted to show that screen, but I think I'm not able to show that. So basis those losers and detractors, the companies are defining their strategies, strategy in terms of the business, strategies in terms of aligning the resources, aligning different aspects of the business. So overall, we have seen that the startups, the impact in startups are less, I would say, because we have less cost commitments, and impact in larger companies would be more. But yes, it is depending on the sector we are in. And like Shubha, like if Lenovo is a small organization, if I consider Lenovo as a small organization and Zozoday as a comparable organization. So I would say electronics and the software business hasn't been impacted much, but yes, companies like, let's say, Cult, or other companies who are more into, let's say, wellness space have been impacted more altogether. And here are some of the initiatives which we took in this COVID times, which actually made us stand apart. So the first thing is, we appointed a psychological counselor to our company, and this particular person spoken to is asked to kind of talk to each employee once every 15 days. Whether or not they have any problem, this psychological counselor speaks to every employee every 15 days and ensure that the employees are happy, good. If they have some issues, etc., they kind of solve it. Second piece we did was we communicated more than before. So in this pandemic time, there are a lot of rumors going around. So there are a lot of Chinese whispers, and there are a lot of kind of goof up which are going on around in terms of communication. So we ensured that every 15 days we are organizing a town hall or a way to kind of communicate more and more. We started communicating our financial figures as well to the people, so that they get a comfort on what's happening. Yes, I won't say that we haven't done a salary cut, but we have done it with everyone's agreement, and all the employees were quite empathetic about things. So we have communicated more than what we used to do before.
Shal, I think you can now show the screen. You made the host.
Okay, I'll show that in towards the end. Yeah. The third piece we did was we built various passion groups, so which can be executed within our house, within our kind of in our home. And these passion groups would be something like cooking and maybe some games or gardening, etc. And there are various contests which kind of runs every month, and they are being asked to kind of rate and put up in the social wall and then do it. So those type of pieces also kind of helped us. A fourth piece is, we started announcing work from home bonus, because now the real estate cost has been reduced, and there is less cost of cost which actually goes to kind of maintain the employees. So we started a work from home bonuses to all the employees, where they can kind of better up the internet connectivity and their system, stable share, etc. And that actually helped us a lot. And we also did one different thing was, we announced no work hours. So in between the week, 1.5 hours was spent in no work hours, and everyone were given certain tasks, just like Big Boss. And they are being asked to kind of put up those tasks which they have done in those 90 minutes in the wall after 90 minutes, and that actually gave a lot of kind of rigor and vibrancy in the overall approach in the company. So yeah, so these are some of the pieces which we did in our company. And it was because Zozoday is relatively smaller than Ruchita and Shubha and Rishi's company, but yes, we tried our best to kind of ensure that less of fatigue is getting developed due to this, COVID times.
Thanks for sharing, Kushal. This is important insights into how startups and mid to small size organizations are approaching this entire scenario, because financial well-being is important, and how do you maintain that financial well-being even in tough situation is important to understand. Question to you,
Rishi, can I just take 10 seconds to show that screen and that infographic?
Sure, you can do that. Yeah.
Do you want to ask questions, Rishi, in parallel?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
it's already there, so I thought I'll look at that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if everyone can see my screen.
Yeah,
but
we can see.
yeah, this is the matrix on how the businesses are impacted in terms of different kind of industries, and medical supply being the most winning potential winners of this particular COVID time, and then tourism and leisure being the most impacted industry, and the companies are actually defining the strategies differently. Like I have my friend in aviation in Indigo, and he is doing some other strategies because the business is completely down, right? So the HRs and the business leaders are taking up steps basis the business impact, and this is some of the losers and winning trend.
That's clear, I think, and it's a good segue to the next question that I have for Shubha, and then we'll probably pass it on to Ruchita, which is, we just saw the chart in terms of how are some things becoming more relevant for employees vis-a-vis others, right? So healthcare is becoming more relevant vis-a-vis, let's say, travel right now, which automatically brings us back to the question, which is, how are you looking at designing your uh, programs in such a way to which is helpful for employees from a financial perspective, and also meeting the current needs of the employees. I mean, earlier what was important is not important anymore, and now what is important is going to be there for a short term. What I hope and believe is. So, how are you modifying your existing programs? What kind of design principles do you use to look at your programs from a financial well-being perspective?
See, I think firstly, it's very important. I mean, before we go to the employee part, and I'm talking about from the other side of the table, not as an employee, rather as a comp manager. So I think it's very important to align with the organization's goals and objective, the one that I spoke about earlier. The second is your affordability. And the third, then it comes to your segmentation in terms of employees and what is the need of the hour. Now, if I were to look at the focus areas that we as a company have taken, keeping in mind the employee segmentation. Now, across our business groups, I really can't say that majority of our employees are early career, or majority of our employees are in the mid-career or late career. So it spans all over.
Yes.
So our offerings to the across countries, across business groups, have to be very broad-based, because we can't really differentiate as well, because that's very difficult to administer. So how can we create a program that is mass appealing, or in parts and pieces, it appeals to the respective set of employees, so everybody benefits at the end of the day. So as a company, I think we have moved towards quicker wealth creation, because that's very important. As in more, we mature in the organization and we look at expertise to be in-house created, it's very important that we support our employees with wealth creation. How do we do that? We typically tweak our long-term incentive policies. We have looked at vesting schedule changes, etc. And at times when companies don't do well, most of your stock appreciation rights go underwater. So how can we change that mix, that it's a grant, and whatever rainy day, sunny day, whatever be it, you have some aspect in terms of wealth creation. So we change that mix.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of stock appreciation rights and the restricted RSUs, the stock units.
RSUs.
Then the other part that we have done is how to focus more on diversity and inclusion. As we grow more mature and become more reputed in the industry, I think we need to be very careful about how we position ourselves and offer our diversity and inclusion offerings. So we have introduced health insurance that encompasses the LGBTQ community. Especially for women, we have made mandatory gradual return from work from maternity leave policies. We have been more inclusive in terms of our paternity or bonding leave with the children, the kids, newborn babies, those kind of things. We have done more with part-time policies, part-time work policies, which was not so prevalent in the past. So all of this kind of helps women employees to give their best without fearing, whether the job will be there after we come back from maternity and all of these, because we are a very lean organization. So we are
Absolutely.
normally, very fast paced. So we have seen the realities of life, right? So how can we make it more comfortable to the women, especially? And of late, that I have seen much more focus is to increase our risk related benefits. So, which talks about our life, accident, and health insurance plans. We have a very generous life insurance plan. So, as I said, we are a large organization, a lot of things we have to do globally because we have a global thought or approach in mind. So, there is a minimum guideline that we have towards our life insurance. But most countries don't follow that minimum guideline. They're much more generous than the minimum guideline, including India. So both life and accident, we have a critical illness cover, which is beyond that. We have a leave of absence, like if there is any unforeseen event that happens, an employee can't join back work on time, we have leave of absence. We have income replacement policy that for certain reasons, if the employee is not able to afford, a long-term or there is a long-term disability, they can't come back or afford to work, we pay them indefinitely. We have a very fair amount of sick leave policy. And we give through the Lenovo Foundation, which is our charitable wing, we have a fairly generous support to employees who are in financial needs. And it's beyond the loans, personal loans that we extend from country to country. So these are grants. And it may sound a little gloomy that we are looking at so much in terms of covering for risk or preparing for rainy days, but these are good policies, and a lot of things were
Absolutely,
already
yeah.
existing, and we had to really re-communicate and make employees feel comfortable that please don't worry, we are there to take care of you. Just
Absolutely.
focus on what is important to you as an employee.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. I think the policies that you shared were beyond just your base and benefits,
Yeah. So
base
those are
and
the
stock and
building blocks that
incentives,
I
basically.
spoke about.
And
Yes.
absolutely, and that's the good part of it, because in times like this, these are the things that come in and provide the required support and reduce anxiety and stress. Which are your thoughts on this question?
I'm so glad, Rishi, before I answer your point, that you asked Shubha to go first, because now I can say our benefits are as good as Lenovo's, if not better. So we are not that big or that broad based. So thank you, Shubha, for making me feel good about it. So we have a majority of the things which Shubha was talking, so I'll avoid repetition on that. I'll just add 2 to 3 things there. I think the point on one size doesn't fit all is very true, but I'll reiterate the need for positive parenting, which means a lot of education, which does not happen through emails or brochures or documents or papers. So you have to be very, very strong on the communication end. Kushal did talk about town hall, but there has to be multiple modes of ensuring you're talking to our employees. Talking about especially the stress now, Rishi, you were talking about it. I think for a base like ours, which was not huge, what we found was that it is unprecedented times, like none of us were prepared for what will come, and none of us knew how it will happen. When it started, all of us thought 20 days later we'll be fine, back to normal. Now, then we gradually thought 2 months. Now the discussion is that maybe it will go on till 2021 as well. So the flexibility part of it was very important for you to look at it, that it is very important for us to build flexibility in the benefits. We had to change benefits and design of benefits practically at a month's notice. Typically, you do a lot of research and you back it, you do the
Absolutely,
numbers, you do the projections, but we didn't have that luxury. And I think that's where Guardian did a wonderful job of taking employees' interest as paramount and ensuring a lot of these changes happen. A lot of other companies also did in the industry, but everybody was not having a good business year. So when you're not having a good business year, but yet you take care of your employees as a mark of character. So that is where I would say Guardian stood pretty tall and ensured that we are providing that kind of health benefits and support. There were crisis support also we had given, where we had to pay people extra to ensure that they tide over the immediate liquidity crunch they were having. Um, on a different format outside COVID, where we are not trying to fight COVID. I think what we try to do is we have that entire wellness under a category called We Care. So financial well-being is one part of it, but we kind of add multiple other kinds of wellness all under it. And what we have realized is that if you do your other wellness elements in a better manner, because we have pretty young employees, they think that nothing will happen to them, they will not need all these benefits, so they're often less understood and less appreciated, but they enjoy things like, sessions and activities, so meditation, interactions, yoga. So that's where we have found that that's a good segue for us to educate them as well. They like experiential discussions, and when you educate them through that, it allows you to build dialogue which helps them to work on various other elements. So if we approach, so we have very rarely approached financial well-being directly with the employees, telling, hey employee, dear employee, this is what you have to do, versus building it into the benefits design, as well as educating it in conjunction with something else which is more relevant to them. So it could be consumerism, it could be competition, it could be dealing with stress, it could be taking care of your loved one. If you marry it with that, people tend to respond to it in a lot more strong fashion. So that's what Guardian possibly has done better.
One key takeaway, from what you said was, people may not understand it, but it's very important, is positive parenting and the education around financial wellness as a parent, and imparting that to the family is a very, very important aspect. I think it is important to provide financial literacy to people, to empower them to make the right choices. And
Yep.
we always speak about traditional benefits and comp, but doesn't focus on the family part, which is where the employee is spending maximum amount of time. And
And they're
family
vulnerable.
together as a
They're very
whole unit
vulnerable there.
can, and they're vulnerable. And that's a very important point to make. So I think that is one key takeaway that I've taken from your point. Uh, Now, the key problem, at least that we've observed in a lot of organization, is while you may have the bestest of programs in place, outstanding reward philosophy, amazing set of benefits, but if you're not able to communicate it to people where it registers, then it becomes a problem, right? So, and that's where the entire literacy thing comes. You may have a book in place, but how do you nudge the employee in the right manner to read the book is also equally important, and then understand and draw conclusions. So I would like to ask your thoughts, starting with Kushal, to understand what have you done from a communication perspective. You spoke about a few points. You said that one of the important pillars of your entire financial wellness this year was communicating more than before. Can you just delve more light on that, and then we can go next with Ruchita and Shubha Lakshmi.
Yeah. So I'll tell
Kushal,
you
you're on
the
mute.
story. Yeah, I hope it's I'm audible now.
Yeah,
Yes.
no.
All right, all right. So so I'll tell you the story of Zozo Day, how we actually did it. So frankly, in the second to third week of March, we were in extreme stress because if you see Zozo Days. Zozo Days shareholding pattern and Zozo Days the company structure. We are a kind of bootstrap company who haven't taken huge sums of money from the external party. So if you categorize Zozo Day as a company, we would fall. And all the bootstrap company, if you see, they work like a daily wage workers. If you have earned last month, you can actually pay salaries the next month, right? So that's the kind. It's blessing in disguise, I would say. because we do not have to answer to too many people, to the board and to everyone. But yes, it actually gets into a big stress if a balance in a particular month actually goes away. So during the second and third week of March, we were in huge stress, and frankly, I mean, we used to have sleepless nights at that time. That okay, how will we run our company, for the in the further month. Hence, we kind of organized a town hall precisely after Narendra Modi's speech, I think on 24th or 25th of March. And we actually explained all the people, all the employees about what's happening, and we spoke about the unpredictability in the business. We spoke about everything. I mean, which we observed, and we actually spoken the heart out to all the employees, and that was the moment we realized that we are not alone. And all 200 employees of Zozo Day, they equally contributed, and they were very, very empathetic about the situation, and they said that we are a family and we'll be alone. But yes, once we sent out a notice about some bit of salary cuts, etc., which we had to do, we got a couple of questions, and some of the questions were as nasty as kind of filing a case against Zozo Day. But right on the same day, what we did was we again organized a town hall, which was 4 days later, and we specifically called out those questions without naming the person who kind of asked that question, and we kind of diligently, with full heart, we kind of gave answers to all those questions which were raised among the people. And the kind of responses and the kind of messages which we got from the employees, I mean, we literally cried that the employees, the people who are with us, I mean, they have they actually understand everything, and they felt very bad about asking those questions and other stuff. So that was a starting point of we starting to communicate with our employees, and talking the heart out. And since then, every month, at least twice a month, we do a town hall, and we talk to the people, understand people's query, and they also keep asking for stuff. What we also did was we the founders and the board members, what we did was we kind of created a small pool of fund, which we created for the employees, and we said that whenever you think that you are in dire need of money, apart from the salaries which you are getting, you can very well connect with us, and then we will be happy to kind of help you out in any way possible, and with zero interest on the loans, etc. So we actually did develop various kind of ways to communicate with the people, communicate rightly, and communicate with empathy, I would say. That was the key for us Zozo Day to kind of seal the boat. And today we are at 80% of the pre-COVID levels, and we are doing all well with all the employees being intact with us.
Sure.
Zero layoffs.
Great, thanks, and thanks for sharing these insights. I'm sure this must be difficult, but what stands out for me is the transparency with which you communicated the things. I think that was the highlight today. Before we go to Ruchita and Shubhalakshmi, I would urge the participants and the audience to put their questions so that we can also start looking at that. We have another 10 minutes more. So we'll probably spend a couple of minutes hearing Ruchita and Shubhalakshmi, and then move on to the questions. So yeah, over to you, Ruchita.
The question was about communication, right?
Communication, yes.
I think so. Again, I'll try not to be repetitive. So we have done on all those things in terms of transparency, town halls, talk to people, have listening sessions. Especially during COVID time, I think we increased our communication almost 10 times. People got individual calls practically every 15 days. So everybody was kept on track. Again, the idea was because most of our employees are migrants, they are not in their home locations, possibly living alone without family. So we were very, very careful about it. And not exactly financial well-being was the concern there, but eventually, yes, that was one of the things which came along with it because people were starting to feel the stress of that. I think couple of things on communication specifically related to financial well-being. Like I said, we have tried not to do it in isolation in most of the time. So you do make a policy change. You do need to send out a mailer. You do need to communicate people. You do need those acknowledgements. Back to Shubha's point, there is a traditional element to the whole thing when it comes to money. But we have done a lot of interactions where we have paired things and we have gamified things. We have interacted where you know we'll launch something and we'll possibly run quizzes on it. We'll launch something and we'll do crosswords. So we try and do something every 3-4 months where we talk to people and talk to them about how much they understood it and how much they want to share back and how much they want to share their benefits if their group members are also equally aware as they are. So there is merit in if they are educating to their fellow peers as well. And then of course the utilization where you keep talking about it. In fact, as late as now Monday we have a session where we are going to talk about strengthening your financial self. This is a full 2 hours talk which will be happening with them, which of course is
Wow.
paired
Okay.
with gamification, but we are going to do that. So especially on financial well-being, it's a tricky topic. It's a very personal topic. You won't stand in a group of 500 people or even 100 people and say this is my situation and this is what I need. So when people talk about what they need from the company, often you have to understand what is being told to you between the lines. You have to look for patterns. You have to look for where they need help. Women, of course, one thing which Shubha talked about. So that's one piece. Of course, we are also very mindful being inclusive employer, but at the same time, for us, the biggest segment is young employees and putting right behaviors and putting right fundamentals there. You started with that, Rishi, saying it's not to do with whether your salary is 50 lakhs or 5 lakhs. But I have seen really bad cases when you really go wrong on the financial well-being side. So we ensure some of the funds and some of the corpus is always there to help employee. The salary is distributed to certain extent, which takes care of their requirements in terms of the compensation design back to the weak care, which helps them inculcate the right behavior. But there is a lot of coaching and mentoring which has to be given to them. So that's where we continuing to endeavor. If I'll use this medium also to say, I don't know who all are in the audience right now, but if there are potential people who are in this as an industry, there is a clear merit of doing more than awareness and training of employees. There are if you go abroad, there are houses which can take care of whole financial well-being as a benefit for employees, especially for companies who are smaller in numbers. So when you are a Lenovo or Microsoft, you're sitting on a base of 10,000 plus employees. There are a lot of things you can do, but if you're an employee setup of 500 people or 1,000 people, your ability to make difference on long-term benefits and that tenure is limited. So that's where there is a clear case in the industry for us to work on something, but that's how we have done the communication.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Shubha, can you just quickly share your thoughts?
Rishi, we have some questions as well from the audience. We just refresh it.
Okay.
Be able to see some
Let's
questions.
just take, absolutely. Let's just take Shubha. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see questions, so I'd request Vinti if you can, you can probably ask the
Yeah.
questions directly because unfortunately I'm not able to see those at my link. But let's
Okay.
just give Shubha 30 seconds to just
Yeah.
summarize her thoughts on
Yeah.
communication. We cannot hear you, Shubha.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Is better?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
sorry, I
Yes.
was
Yes.
sorry.
yeah, it's better
So I
now.
think communication, see, you have to be very trusted employer. The communication is a continuous process, a transparent communication and a leadership communication. Uh, Basically, keep employees attached to your company's vision, mission, and what you really offer employees as a caring employer. Now, at times like this, obviously we have to beef up the communication both from a content side and from the effectiveness side. So from what we have done, from an effectiveness side, we've done more of, obviously email communication is one form. When it comes from the leadership team, it has a more set of eyeballs rather than you have an emailer whereas a group communication comes. So the effectiveness is important. We have a more interactive sessions where people's participation is required, so that it's more effective. And from a content point of view, I think we have over communicated on incentives and benefits, as I said. Now, incentives, why? Because I mean, we have been very fortunate that we have not been hit as other industries during these bad times, because you know the technology requirements across all customer segments has really gone up, and we have tried our best to capture this opportunity to really tell our employees or pass on the positive message to employees. So communication around incentives, especially on the financial wellness guideline, that was very important. And the other part is the benefit. Now benefits, it was health related, like what we have done in the health insurance to cover COVID related benefits. That was one. We are considering certain infrastructure upgrade for people to work from home, though we have been always having a work from home policy, but now it's like more crucial for us to look into that. And work-life related benefits. So benefits, we can't really split into what is financial versus what is non-financial. So
they may intangibly touch the financial aspect. I
yes.
understand.
So when we talk about it, it's all a package. So we have also spoken about how work-life related, like I heard speaking about Kushal talking about that work hours have increased. So how we control our meeting time, or do we let employees to take forced time off because people are not taking vacations now, nowhere to go. So those are the aspects that we have really looked into.
Okay, understood. Thanks. So let me just quickly get into the question now. Probably I can take one question or one or two questions, which is one question is from Nimisha Anand. She's asking to any of you who want to answer. The question is, do you see companies apportioning budget towards development and or enhancement of existing talent retention programs while managing tight budgets specifically during these times?
I can start.
Yes.
If anybody.
Yeah.
All right. So I think if Nimisha, my point would be that if they are not doing, they should be doing. The difference typically sits when somebody asks us and I'm not referring to you, when people ask us this question, they assume this will have a heavy bias for, towards retaining employees by throwing money or, somehow ensuring that we have put them in that protective ring. The idea when you're looking into development and into retention is about the value proposition, and the value proposition is no more about fighting for that piece of talent and wanting them there. The proposition right now is about having the right talent with you, and which is a two-way street. So our company is doing it. I am pretty sure companies are doing it. I'm not talking about the ones who are really going through tough time, because survival tends to precede anything which you're looking at. But if that is not an issue, I am not aware of any company which is not spending on development and retention right now. And it is very crucial, because if you have, let's say, half the money you had yesterday, you would want to be very sure that you have logged and blocked all your people you critically need, and you're developing them enough for you to sustain for the next 2-3 years, because times are going to be tough, not just now. This will sustain and this will continue for next 2-3 years. In Guardian specifically, I can tell you we have already done that, and we have started making the next 2 years plan to ensure that we are absolutely well placed to handle the times to come.
Sure. Thanks, Uchita. Vinti, how are you doing on time? Can you just help us? Vinti, I cannot hear you.
I think we are done. It's already 12:40.
Yeah. Vinti, we cannot hear you.
Can't hear you, Vinti.
Can you hear me? Said we are done, I think, on time.
Yeah, you're on time now.
Can
Can
Vinti,
you hear me now?
I can come in?
yes, we
Yes.
can hear you now. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, so we are bang on time, Rishi. I think we are just going on time. Uh,
Okay,
we've just finished, in fact, on time. This was the time that we were supposed to be in.
okay,
I think
sure.
it's a wrap for this session, and I would like to mention thanks to Kushal for sponsoring this session. This session is partnered by XOXO Day on financial well-being. So thank you, Rishi, for superbly moderating the session. Thank you, Ruchita, for your very insightful discussions. Thanks, Shubha Lakshmi. I think you had some great insights. Thank you, everyone. We had a great time with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you. Pleasure,
panelists.
Vinti.
Really appreciate. Thank you, Shubha.
Bye.
Thank you, Kushal. Thank you. Bye bye.
Efficient organizations are built with motivated and purpose-driven employees. Employees need clarity, growth, and motivation to perform at their best. And people managers understand and aim to provide the same. Challenges are many, and solutions exist in silos. A multitude of disconnected solutions lead to complex implementation and low adoption. Enter Impulse, a holistic solution for all your employee engagement needs. Connect, align, empower, and motivate your employees to build high-performance teams. Gather feedback, identify improvement areas, and take corrective action, all through one common platform. And with seamless integrations available with your existing work systems, getting started is a breeze. Zozo Day Impulse is designed for employees and people managers with the principles of the Deming cycle for continuous feedback and continuous improvement at its core. For employees, Impulse makes the workplace vibrant and connected, with continuous feedback, recognition, and perks. Managers can get a real-time pulse of their teams and take actions to move the teams forward. HR can listen to employees and uncover risks and opportunities to make a better workplace. CXOs can get visibility into organizational health and make right people decisions to drive better business results. Configure Impulse to suit your organizational structure, whether you are a growing startup or an enterprise. Build a truly engaged employee experience with Zozo Day Impulse.
I think with that, we will now start our final session on mental health and well-being. This session is partnered by HR NXC. We have three panelists and one moderator. The session is moderated by Mr. Ashish Arora, who's the founder and managing director for HR NXC. We have Ms. Renu Bora, who's the CHRO for Schenker India Private Limited. We have Venkat Raghavan, CA, who's the HR lead for Accenture Global Operations HR in India and also program sponsor for mental well-being at Accenture. We also have Dr. S.K. Chaturvedi, who's an expert here in mental health, and he's heading the Department of Mental Health at NIMHANS. Thank you all for joining in. I would request Mr. Ashish Arora to now start the discussion. We all can put our cameras on, and over to you, Ashish. Welcome you all at this session. Thank you all for joining in. Over to you, Ashish.
Thank you very much, Vinti, for the lovely introduction. I'm going to just use to share my screen. Let me just get there. Yeah, there you go. So that we're all on the same page. All right, good afternoon. I'm sure a lot of audience who've been there, which we can't see and hear, but I'm sure there's lots of people around can hear us. And you've been at it for the last 2 hours, talking about well-being, whether it's financial well-being or overall well-being. I must begin by saying, first of all, thank you to Vicky for organizing something like this for industry. I mean, you really are front runners because this is what really is the biggest concern today. And I say that whether as organizations or as corporate executives, whether you're ready or not, the interesting times have arrived, right? None of us really knew about this COVID-19 pandemic. In fact, the pandemic word itself is so new to a lot of us. It has been an abrupt and universal shock to almost every part of the world. It has rocked not only societies, economies, but the tremors, not the Beirut tremors that we have been hearing about for the last 2-3 days now. The tremors of that has been felt across the continents. We don't even know today where we are or when will it end, how will it end. We have no idea. We have no clue at all whether it'll end in 3 months, 6 months, take a year, 2 years. What will vaccine do, and so on and so forth. But the good news is that the human animal is really a learning animal, right? We really very, very quickly adapt. Whatever the turmoil, and we have seen several in the last 100 years, which have wrecked the lives. This turmoil has also wrecked the lives of employees and livelihoods. But industrialists and HR folks or business leaders, right? I'm sure they'll figure out what the priorities are, and the priorities are changing for sure. With the half the workforce today not working, the rest half working from home, only 10% or 25%, whatever, based on various states being allowed to come to their factories and organizations. So it is a very different world, as we hear it every second headline, the new normal. So we are in a new normal for sure. I just thought to start with, let me just quickly pick up some headlines that we all have seen in the last few weeks, probably, right? 40% women professionals are experiencing high level of stress, double burden syndrome, home and office, right? As pandemic shifts, holistic well-being takes the center stage, and therefore we're talking about well-being, right? COVID-19, India is staring at mental health, and so on and so forth. 93% India Inc. workers are stressed about returning to office. Whether it's a stress or a paranoia or a fear or anxiety, I'm sure as in the next 1 hour, we will certainly explore that. And so on and so forth. The outbreak sets new challenges of psychosocial issues and whatnot. Lots and lots of these things we are hearing all the time, right? The question that we must ask ourselves very quickly, what does the current well-being in India look like, really? If you look at the unlock 1 and 2, what does it really look like? Right, constantly chasing deadlines, stretching working hours. The boundary between the home and the office is almost diminishing, right? And I know that we were having a Zoom call yesterday between 10:30 to about 12:30 with some of my colleagues. I mean, in 4 months, 5 months back, we would never imagine that you're having a video call like this from 10:30 in the night to 12:30 in the night. Crazy, really. Or it is all about constantly annoying because of the stress that is being built up. A lot of annoyance, a lot of issues that you're having at home, and therefore the outburst, whether it's friends, with family, sometimes with colleagues and your peers and whatnot. Or it is about constantly worried about insecurities. Whether I lose my job, I'll probably have a pay cut or whatever. If you not already have a pay cut, there are all kinds of issues happening because in the current environment. I must share with you, this is a very interesting quick research that India Psychiatric Society did. They said in the initial 2-3 weeks of lockdown, the number of reported cases of mental illness in India rose by a whooping 50%. Unbelievable, right? So, and of course, Dr. Chaturvedi, who's absolutely expert on this, I'm sure he'll throw some light in a few minutes from now. What we did was, before I get to the panel, what we did was FICCI and HR and XC put a survey together. We are still exploring all our data and so on and so forth. The data, we just closed the survey day for yesterday, which essentially we called it a CARE survey, coronavirus ailment, repercussion and effect survey. Essentially, what is the impact of this pandemic and the lockdown that we've had for 3 months on the population, all right, largely the corporate population. So therefore, it was largely about psychological impact of the pandemic on the people in the corporate India. So we are not ready with the full report, but I thought this is a great opportunity to share at least some highlights of the report with the audience that we have here. Very quickly, what did CARE stand for? Really, what we looked at from a demographics is industry, gender, generation, like anybody would look at demographics, location, various parts of the country, occupations, age profile, and so on and so forth. And what we were measuring in the professional and personal well-being were these 6 factors: the current state of health and well-being, the organizational, physical and emotional fitness, the social support in the organization, because people are work from home, people don't have, many, and we also heard people didn't have even essentials to go and buy, didn't have money to buy, and so on and so forth. Degree and scope of the impact of this pandemic, the coping mechanisms in the working population, and the overall optimism level in the employees, and of course, of all of this, what are the implications in the organization? We will release the report on the eve of Independence Day. I am pushing my team and FICCI and us both are working together on this. But here are some very quick highlights. So what we did was we mapped these 6 factors on a 9-grid. We had to use the model, so we kept thinking of what model to use. We mapped it on a 9-grid model, right, where we looked at the 3 aspects of health on the x-axis and the 3 aspects of well-being on the y-axis. The 3 aspects of health being physical, emotional, and social support, and the well-being being professional well-being, personal well-being, and overall optimism, right? And as we mapped on the low, moderate, high, very standard, so we mapped it into 5 different parameters. So we said people who are really low on health and low on well-being, both, right? They are in a critical stage and they really need some immediate support, right? Could have suicidal tendencies and whatnot. And I'm sure when Venkat talks about what kind of initiatives they've done in Accenture, we'll know more about that. Then we looked at what about people who are moderate, like moderate or low. I mean, if you're moderate on well-being and low on health, where you are a moderate on health and low on well-being, where we call them restless people. That there is some scope, but they're doing something good, but they need to work a little more. And I'll talk about definitions in a minute. Then the people who are really mid-level, the moderate, which is generally always the larger population, is the people who are okay, comfort zone. They're okay. They're getting the supplies. They're okay. They have the family support. They have the organization support. They have not lost the job, and so on and so forth. Then we looked at people who are high on one thing at least. Even though I've lost a job, but I'm really doing great on health. I'm exercising. I'm going to the gym. I'm doing my yoga. I'm really kept my health, whether it's physical, emotional health, really high, or other way around, my health is low because of whatever COVID factor or anxiety, fears, and so on and so forth. But my well-being, because my company has taken care of me. We haven't had a loss of salary. We haven't had a loss of pay cut. We haven't had whatever we've been, and so on and so forth. So that's really people who are hopeful. And then we looked at the people who are on a high well-being and high health. We are optimal level. They are doing well. They got a family support. They're doing well in health. They got everything, almost going right for them. And typically high level of optimism and high level of social support as well. So this is how we map very quickly. So I've already defined, but in the interest of time, very quickly, this is what the 5 definitions are. Optimal, as I said, is people who are high, which is fully aware and being in control. Hopeful, people who are able to navigate through the low phase of being positive. They are either health or well-being is low, but they're able to navigate. Comfort, which are in between, comfortable with what is already going on. They have some support around. Restless certainly has an issue, and critical, obviously, people who need immediate assistance and guidance to get back on track, else we'll have a huge issue there. Right. When we, very quickly, the highlights, when we mapped the overall population, we had about 3,100 people, to be exact, 3,105 people who participated. And this is where we are 19% people, which is at the optimal level. Right, the hopefuls are 22%, which is good news. The moderate are 35%. Right, so this is how the entire overall spread looks like. The 18% people are restless. This means they are either low on health, low on well-being, and also moderate, just about there on the health or well-being. 18% people, which is a large population, and about 6% population are critical. So in a way, good news that is we don't have. I mean, though it is 186% people, but it's not as bad as we really thought out to be. 6% people who are in really low, who are in a really deep state of current well-being. Right. Very quickly, age-wise, just to give a very quick perspective, we had less than 30 years. We had about 1,200 people. 31 to 40 years, about again 1,200 people. 41 to 50 years, this is the age-wise demographics, about 500, and more than 50 years, about 230. So you can see the people who are above 50 are kind of taking care of themselves, 6%, 5%. I mean, the critical state is all right. The 31 to 40 has a typically, and also the less than 30. So this means the youngsters, the GY, have a little higher rest than the others too. Just to give a very quick analysis. I said we'll come back with analysis in about a week's time, but this is really a quick, deep dive, or not even a deep dive, actually just a quick view of the report. Moving forward, this is the gender-wise male. We had about 2,011 or 2,100 males and 930 women. And you can see the restless state and even the critical state in women being high, because as we saw that, because of the dual pressure of home and work, is just the Indian psyche or Indian male expectation that, you're at home and you'll work too. So that really crazy chauvinistic attitude, but that's how it is. 33% women are in the critical restless state. When we look at level-wise, this is just to give you perspective. In the survey, we had almost 126 entrepreneurs, whether small entrepreneurs or big entrepreneurs, 445 senior level professionals, about 1,600 mid-level professionals, entry-level professionals, and about almost 737 workers. Right. So you see where the high rate of restlessness is entrepreneurs. 30% entrepreneurs are restless, and for reasons very valid. What will happen to my company? These are SMEs, MSMEs, mid-segment companies, right? Those entrepreneurs who are really restless as to what will happen to my organization. 3 months, no production, no factory, no workers, or the migrants have moved on. So there's obviously a high rate of restlessness in the entrepreneurs, very obviously. Very quickly, just to give 3-4 more perspectives on professional well-being. As I said, we will not get into too much of analysis, but this is a question that we ask on clarity of communication. To me, this is a critical piece, that despite working remotely, my team has been, this is a question that we asked, and there was a 5-point scale from a strongly disagree to a strongly agree. Right? So despite working remotely, my team has been communicating efficiently, smoothly with each other. So the communication really plays a role. And we saw a lot of companies, that all those companies where the entrepreneurs, senior leaders, HR leaders, whatever the format was, wherever there were open communication, a lot of honesty, a lot of Zooms, a lot of meetings, a lot of engagements, and so on and so forth, those employees of the companies have been much better off than the others. Communication has played a key role and will play a key role in the professional well-being always. Right. We looked at comfort with the changes that work with the new normal. I would appreciate some more support and patience from my manager in order to keep me alive, really help everyone adjust to the new normal of working from home. Right. So again, a larger population is on the strongly agree that they need support. So it's important for us to realize that people, if we are asking people to work from home, they need support, whether it's tech support or even an emotional support. Right. Other questions we asked is, because of the lockdown, my company gives me flexible working hours. Most of the people agreed that, barring a close 22% people who did not agree with that. My colleagues have adopted well to the virtual working environment. There's a population, about 1/4 of the population, which believes that people have not really adapted. The rest of the people, 75% people, have adapted to the new working environment. Then we looked at job security. That concerns regarding the steadiness of job and income are always in my mind, because obviously there were a lot of talks about job losses and whatnot. Right, so about 13% people are disagree or strongly disagree. Right, the rest of the people are in the either mid-range or agree. The steadiness of the job and income are always in the mind. So this is a concern that, will I lose my job? Will I have a pay cut, and so on? So that has been, so the HRs or the companies which have gone to people and talked about that and had open communication and conversation with people, obviously those companies have been fairly successful. And if you've not done that, we know where we have an issue. I'm worried that I might lose my job anytime soon. Look at that. There's a huge amount of population, right, which is disagree. I mean, not huge, sorry, just about 40%, 45% which disagree, but the rest of it is on the other side. All right, the nature of my work is making it difficult for me to work remotely. Very mixed bag of fruit, really, because obviously people, when the pandemic happened, the lockdown happened, a large part of the country or people were not really ready to work remotely, because technology setups at home were not really ready. So those were the issues. So the reason we are talking about this is because this will give a perspective to the corporate India as to what is really going on. If you're looking at working remotely, work from home, the new normal, and so on and so forth, what are the few things? And when we come out with the report, we talk about the action plan. What are the few things that we must take care of? Right. So moving on very quickly, in the interest of time, I will skip some of this because the panelists are waiting. But we also looked at the professional well-being, productivity, right? Where some people, if you see the last question, I've taken the challenge head on, and I feel pumped up, which is very interesting. A large population people is talking about that they have taken the challenge head on, which is nice. So this means there is a large degree of optimism. But there's also, about 20-30% pessimism or negativity in people. So we need to, or the stress and anxiety, we need to really work on that 1/3 of the population. Okay, I'll skip this in the interest of time. I know the panelists is waiting and all of us are waiting for panelists to talk about that. I particularly like this. The third question is that my hobbies have come to my rescue and helped me de-stress. A lot of people took on to hobbies, whether it's yoga or cooking or whatever the hobby they had, right? Whatever they could do at home, and they did. So there is almost a 70% people. Either that'll be a very interesting debate separately sometime. Okay, I'm going to just skip this, but yeah, this is about overall optimism. I feel the economic crisis after the law. I fear the economic crisis. There is a large population which is fearing the economic crisis, very large population. So from HR perspective and organization perspective, I think it's important that we reach out to our people and at least lay these fears in the minds of people. Otherwise, it will get only worse from a well-being and the health perspective. Okay, I'm going to skip this. And I think we're going to go panelists very quickly on what do they have to say. As we said, I'm sure Vicky will release this report in about a week's time, and then you can have more questions, and we'll set up some maybe a email or a phone line where you can ask questions about the research. But this was a free survey we did, and it's available. It will be available in about a week's time for anybody. And I'm sure there'll be on the basis of this research, a lot of companies can put their action plan. So getting to panelists very quickly, let's see what do they have to say about well-being. I know that Vinti did do a small introduction, but just as a moderator, I think it's only my humble duty to introduce the absolute, a fantastic panel that we have today. So though the world is equal today, but I'll still start with ladies first. Renu Bora, who's the CHRO of DB Shankar. She's got 25 years in HR with MNC, the private public sector. She's been 10 years with Shankar now, and Shankar is about a 4,000 people company, which is both direct and indirect. And they've been doing some really crazy work on wellness. And I'm sure we'll hear more from Renu, but things like e-yoga, chair yoga, health camps, preemptive medicals, which is very rare stuff in logistics industry, particularly those who understand logistics industry, warehousing, trucking, and freight forwarding, and so on and so forth. It's a very, very rare thing. Renu also have a very interesting career, right? Most of you will be quite surprised, pleasantly surprised, what kind of education background she has. She's did her MSc in mathematics, then MBA in HR. She also done her MPhil in computer application. So look at that. She got a very mixed balance of right brain and left brain, computer application, mathematics, and also she did her MS in physiotherapy or psychotherapy and counseling. So that's really a rare combination where somebody, a mathematician, a computer application, MPhil, and you do your MBA in HR and a psychotherapy and counseling. Absolutely fabulous. She, and of course, like such a senior professional, she has loads of certifications from ISAFs, from IF. She did her senior management program from IIM Calcutta, and done a lot of stuff from Hayes, job analysis from Hayes Group, and she's a certified assessor. And obviously she's because she's worked for companies like National, Nalco, Balco, Blue Star, and so on and so forth. She has a lot of interest in Gemba, Kaizen, and so on and so forth. A lot of those stuff. So that's Renu Bora for you, gents and ladies. Welcoming Renu on the panel. Then I'm going to introduce Dr. Chaturvedi. Actually, I can probably write a book on him. Or anybody who knows him can actually write a book on the kind of stuff that Dr. Chaturvedi has done. He's one of those rare professionals who actually mixes psychiatry and medicine. We have heard of psychiatrists, we've heard of medicine, but he really mixes psychiatry and medicine. Right? He's currently professor in psychiatry in NIMHANS. Those who know NIMHANS, NIMHANS is a National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences. It's under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. He also, prior to that, was the Dean of the Behavioral Sciences at NIMHANS. Right? He's, as I said, he's a medical professional. So he's done his MBBS, then his master's, MD in psychiatry. And then some of the things that he's done, which I don't know the full form, but I will still say, which is FRCP psychology from UK. Doc, you are absolutely brilliant. He's got over 550 publications in national and international journals. He's got over 20 books of various kinds, including a book on chronic pain, book on communication skills. Now, this is a very different communication skills. It's about how do you communicate with ailing patients, with more so patients of cancer and so on and so forth. He's done some very interesting work on psychiatry and cancer. He's traveled the world over, had different stints across the world, doing mental and physical well-being around the world. What I love about him when I was talking to him, he's one statement, and you all will just be absolutely excited with that. He says, my biggest interest, apart professional interest, I'm sure it is not the personal interest. He said, my biggest interest in life is pain, P-A-I and pain. He said, then he jokingly said, of course, not giving pain, but relieving people of pain. All right, so Doc, welcome to this panel, and I'm sure we're going to have some very interesting conversations. And lastly, I must say that one of the very interesting current portfolio he's handling, he's the chairman of the task force set up by Government of India of psychology on the psychological aspect of COVID, post-COVID, what's going on with all the stress, stigma, anxieties that people are going through. How do you deal with that? He's actually heading that entire, that committee. Then let me introduce you to our third panelist, Venkat Raghavan. Very interesting, somebody who's been doing a lot of very, very exciting work, including using technology and whatnot in the wellness, well-being, whatever you call it, well-being and wellness domain. Venkat, as he's generally called, he's the HR lead for operations in India and Sri Lanka for Accenture. And as most of you know, Accenture is 200,000 people organization, very large organization, and leading operations and leading wellness for that. He also leads the wellness for the entire organization. Leading wellness for that is absolutely crazy. Actually, Accenture started their wellness program about 2.5 years back, and Venkat is leading that. And I'm sure we'll hear some very, very exciting stuff that Venkat has been doing at Accenture, right? And the way they're using technology, not just just simple wellness. Actually, very interestingly, and I'm sure Venkat will talk about that, the entire thing started with like a suicide prevention program, not just for Accenture, but the entire ecosystem several couple of years back. And then, of course, that has catapulted now into much larger wellness programs. They use a lot of analytics, business analytics, which has been built into the entire wellness program, whether it's demographics, family background, city people come from, or they live in, and so on and so forth. He's also very interestingly also leading the NASCOM committee, which is essentially talking about the impact of COVID and why do we fear COVID and so on and so forth, and much larger impact on the well-being. That's the committee he's part of. So with that being the panelists, gents and ladies, I'm going to put the first question, and I'm going to request each panelist to put their perspective on this question. What, according to your experience, and maybe we can start with Renu first, and then Doctor, and then Venkat, according to your experience, are the possible implications of employees' well-being status on the organizations because of this ongoing crisis? I mean, what's really going on? What are the possible implications of employee well-being? So your take, Renu?
Yeah, thank you, Ashish. And I really envy your energy. Thank you, Vicky, for inviting us. And I think we have a very good panel and experts in the panel who I look forward to hear from them. The way you gave my introduction, Ashish, I was just thinking that, you can sell everyone. Yeah, so then you feel a sense of pride for yourself. Okay, so it's an interesting question that, what are the implications of current crisis? And yeah, so it's not only COVID, it's not only a disease, we know about it. It is not only a physical health related ailment. The way it is, and it's a pandemic, the way it has taken huge space in the entire globe because of the kind of globalization that we have in the 21st century. It has huge repercussions. So very specific topics, say for corporates, what has its impact on well-being? The social media that we have, every day when you log in, and first thing that you see on the sidebar is the number of cases that are coming up, and they are in millions and crores. So it has an adverse impact on you. You feel that the disease is just knocking your door. And then you see everybody wearing masks around you. Even if it's a normal scenario, it is, or it is a new normal, it is still will take some time to, accept that we are in a very different kind of situation. We are working in a very new way. We are all sitting cocooned in our homes and working in a setup which is not ergonomically suitable. Though we may say that we are working from the comfort of our homes, but this is a very different kind of working scenario where you don't even. I have a colleague who stays maybe few blocks away in Basant Kunj in Delhi, but I have not met her since March, and she is my direct report. So, and then we talk about team bonding, and here we are not even seeing each other. And yeah, and there is a fear of financial crisis going to happen. It can loom large. It can also happen to you because you are working in a private organization. And what will happen to tomorrow? Social media you can avoid, okay. And we have been advising people to avoid going for social media and just getting bombarded with various kind of information. But this work pressure, because the way we are working is, even if we have a very good technology forum, we are organizing Teams call at the snap of a button and snap of a finger, and we are all day long in calls. And then late evening we have got webinars, and this has impacted people in a very big way because every time they are mentally engaged. I have got people who are saying that on Sundays only they are working on the project that they have been given to, because, or they're responding on emails on Sundays because Monday to Saturday they are all on calls. And then you talk about, then we also had 2 surveys done in our organization. People are asking for mandatory leave. People are asking for, can we have a day in the week which is allotted for no calls so that we can do work? office work. So there is a lot of impact on wellness because the financial burden is there in your head. The fact that tomorrow, even if the other day when I was sleeping and I got up at 12 o'clock with a strange cough, for half an hour I was thinking, I went for a walk, though I was wearing a mask. Maybe I've got corona. So I'm just saying, and then it is not normal, and it has a huge impact. While the organization is working from has got work from home scenario, we are giving a lot of technology support. We are organizing a lot of webinars. We are organizing Zumba classes. We are organizing various e-yoga sessions. But the fact is that it is quite humongous, and there is no easy answer. We are still discovering new things. This is my take on this.
Thank you, Renu. Brilliant. Absolutely. I can certainly empathize with you, the social media impact on us. And I really love this thought of yours. Then can we have a day in a week, no call day? I just taken that and I'm going to propagate that. Let's do a week, no call day. Absolutely. No call, no Zoom call, no meetings. Just do the work. And look at that. We are saying, just let me do my work. Forget the calls. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Renu. Brilliant thoughts. Absolutely. So earthly and brilliant. Doctor, over to you.
Yeah. Hi, Ashish. And thanks to Fiki for organizing this program. And I've been listening to the previous panel also. It's very, very educative. There are a couple of things I would like to say, Ashish. First of all, when we look at from the mental health point of view, it is not the typical psychiatric disorders that we are seeing. There are newer disorders which have come up, which are related to loneliness, exhaustion, fatigue. Whether fatigue is because of working from home, or the fatigue is because of Zoom or with the webinars, boredom, demotivation. Most important thing is, the lack of human touch. I mean, we are seeing many more people, but we are seeing many more people virtually. But when is the last time did I shake somebody's hand? Did I pat somebody or did I hug someone?
So
I mean, it's just it's like a withdrawal from reality. And then what Renu said just now, we are seeing quite a lot of health anxiety.
Yes.
People are worried that whether they have got corona. It's not only so little is known about COVID-19 that you can blame everything to COVID. So it's not only cough. Now we find that anybody who has gastric symptom, chest symptom, fatigue, muscle symptom, visual symptom, every symptom is now being linked to COVID. So we are seeing a lot of these issues and problems which are coming up. And we had shut down our outpatients for the first 2 months. And then from 1st of June, we started, seeing our hospital. We started seeing patients because ours is not a COVID hospital. It's mental health and neuroscience hospital. And I can say that most of the patients who came had problems related to the impact of COVID. And most of it was about work related and business related. And, financial stress, occupational stress. And not only that, I mean, people having sleep disturbances. That's the most important thing. They are stuck inside the home, and there is no money, and a lot of industry has got affected, but they're not able to sleep. So the newer types of issues and problems which are coming up, and unfortunately, there are no easy answers to most of these. But I want to make a comment about your survey findings. Yes. And we did a survey, obviously in the pre-COVID times, almost 10, 15 years back. And we had done it in Bangalore and about some of the industries, I can't name them. And I'm quite surprised because in your findings, you find 18% were the moderate, restless, and 6% critical, which is like about 24% of people were stressed out.
Yes.
Now I should tell you how many people had stress and anxiety in the software ITES companies before COVID. 36%.
Wow.
Okay, so that's very surprising, and we did a similar survey in our institute among doctors and psychiatrists, and we were quite surprised to find that at least 20% of them felt less stressed out than at normal times. So I think what's happening is the stress has changed.
Yeah.
Whereas people had stress earlier about getting stuck in traffic or reaching on time, facing the boss, facing colleagues, and deadlines quickly. So a lot of organizing for food or organizing for children and other things. So those stresses have become less. But obviously, there's some new stresses have come up.
Correct.
But this is a very surprising finding that actually people, in fact, are less stressed than before. It's actually the stress which is there is more annoying stress now, and since it is very new. And there is something else. I'll just take a minute. Is that when the whole COVID thing came, the whole country went through different stages of what we call of coping with severe stress. That is called as DABDA, the denial, anger, bargaining, depression. So first we were in the stage of denial. It can't happen to us. It cannot happen in our country. It can happen only in China or Italy or Spain. Then we got angry that it has happened to us. And then we were angry at not only ourselves, we become angry at God, that why did God give? And then easiest thing is to get angry at the government. Why did the government didn't protect us? And in industry, people get angry at their bosses. They want everything to be done by their bosses. So anger was there. And now we have come to the stage of, bargaining and depression. Now we are thinking that let us use the safety measures, let us use masks, let us wash hands. But acceptance is coming in, and acceptance is coming in, and people are now getting used to lockdowns. Lockdowns are not going anywhere. The WHO has said pandemic is going to stay. We are looking at the next many years, and I think people will get used to it.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
true, Doctor. Absolutely. I love this word, dabda. But I am so glad, Doctor. I think the two, of course, everything that you said is a gem. But the two things that you talked about, that people are stuck inside home. There was earlier you would be stuck somewhere else, but you're stuck. I mean, people would want to be at home, and now you're saying stuck inside home, right? That's the world is changing really. And then, of course, I so completely agree that we being so social animal, you can't do social distance or physical distance at all. Therefore, the loneliness, fatigue, shaking of hand, patting of back, that the hugs and all that, that is so critical. Is you're missing that, and therefore the stress and the mental wellness is more critical. Thank you so much, Doc.
Yeah.
Moving on to Venkat.
Hi, Ashish. Thank you. I think great question, and I'll go at it two ways. I think the impact on an organization really depends on, in my view, who you are dealing with, and it could be who you are dealing with based on in this current pandemic, where you're from, what's your gender, what's your marital status, what's your living arrangement, and perhaps even what's your life stage. And these are just to name a few.
Yes.
And what are our, I think, once that becomes a little clearer, the implications for our employees, for any organization's employees, are various. And as everybody was talking, I was making a list, and I'm going to go at it in no specific order. One of the things that crosses my mind ever so often is, people who are subjected to domestic violence and or abuse in any form. In a lockdown situation like this, they're actually stuck at home with the perpetrator of the crime. You could look at impacts of isolation when you're being treated for the disease and its after impacts. The media news bombardment and what's your exposure to it on a daily basis. And a lot of elderly who are retired are watching only that day in and day out. And our employees could be living with senior citizens. You are talking about incidences of self-harm, depending on the state of one's health. And I think stigma coupled with stigma, and I'm just calling the stigma layered over stigma. There's a stigma on mental health, and then there is a stigma on now COVID. And so what is the effects of on any human being on stigma layered over stigma, and the power of how it can weigh a person down. It's also, I think, truly testing people's resilience. What is your stretchability? And to name just a few others, professional insecurity. One person actually, one employee came to me and said, "I haven't touched another human being leave alone being intimate. And it is really hard, and it's playing on me, and it's been 3 months and I haven't seen another person.
Wow.
Kids at home, worrying about not just, I think the early worries were there are two people working in the house, there are kids running around. Now the worry is what's the impact it is having on the normalcy, the known normalcy of my child's upbringing.
Right.
And I think, some very obvious ones are the sheer paranoia. If somebody coughs as I'm going for a run, even I see myself twitch a little bit and swerve a little bit. I don't know what I'm swerving from. And of course there are absolutely, people are dealing with the so-called lack of boundaries. There is no boundary to anything. Is it family time? Is it social time? Is it TV time? Is it dinner time? Is it work time? It's just one long continuum. And I therefore I think one the response to your question is it will have to, one can possibly assess the implication of an employee well-being knowing who you are dealing with and truly seeking to understand what is it that they're going through.
I think so true, absolutely, Venkat, in just the right spirit, that we need to know who we're dealing with, absolutely. If you don't know, because you can't have one size fit all. No way, right? So we'll have to figure out as to who we're dealing with, your background, where you come from, what kind of family environment you have, and so on and so forth. And I think that we're all talking about the same thing, that it is becoming, the boundaries are really getting diminished because it is work from home. So there is whether it's personal life, professional life, your personal time, your hobby time, there is nothing. It's just one long 18, 20 hours a day. Well, thank you very much. Let me move on to the second question, which is very, very intriguing, which is about the possible risk, as per you, with that possibly organizations could be facing, the mental or emotional, because of the current. I know some of it you've already talked about, but I'd like to hear a little more about, if from more from your organization perspective and from Doctor, because you're dealing with the world at large, what are the possible risks you think that the organizations could be facing because of the current mental emotional state of people? So we're essentially talking about what are the possible risks. If maybe we'll go reverse this time, start with Venkat, then Doctor, and then Renu. That what kind of risk are you? Venkat, you got 200,000 people, and of course, since you're also on the NASCOM committee and do a lot of other things. So, if you can talk about what's really going on in the corporate India and what possible risk might be there.
So I think we've come from. Now I'll play this very differently, right? When we started when the entire pandemic started, we were in a state of shock. So was I, and it took some getting used to. But the paradox is there was also a great state of euphoria for many people, and for a lot of working people who were suddenly plunged into working from home. There was euphoria possibly on account of gratitude that they could still continue to work. There was euphoria that their companies had stepped up and taken care of everything. And there was just euphoria of more family time. People who are on the road suddenly said, I have family time. So, there is also the paradox of euphoria of suddenly being plunged into being at home.
Right.
And, one of the interesting conversations is I've heard many organizations talk about our productivity has gone up. And, there are various ways of looking at it. People have spoken about it publicly. And, in many such conversations that I've personally engaged, within and outside, I've always asked, saying, how sustainable are the results? Because it's 3 months, everything comes down. It's like a euphoria of a new joiner in an organization.
Right.
It's extremely high and then it settles to a stable state. And we are far from knowing the stable state yet. So, people's mental and emotional state is evolving depending on, it was one lockdown. It's lockdown 4.0. Okay, lockdown is here to stay. Okay, now COVID's extended till. So we are still resetting our expectations. And one of the immediate tests to that was as soon as the first lockdown opened, people started getting out. Those productivity numbers almost always came into question because now people had other engagements outside of their homes also. Right. and you start dealing with the outside world. So it's one thing to measure productivity in an organization. So I think the biggest possible risk is, to achieving. I will just leave it at two. I think there is no current state. Our current state is literally still changing every day, and it is defining some new normal which we possibly don't know. And I think there will be no stability. One is, I think there will be no stability to predicting organizational results until there is some level of stability on the mental and emotional state. That's really one way I look at it. I think the second is, we are I think the real sheer logistics of what is it doing to various industries, the associated industries, all of that will play out. We're resulting in those. I think those are the two big risks of achieving organizational objectives.
Sure. I guess in your case, in Accenture or a lot of other IT companies, I think people are were still habituated to work from home. I would certainly like to hear from Dr. and Renu, because Renu, from a logistics industry, people got to be there. You got to be there at the warehouse. You got to be there driving the truck, and you got to be there at the custom clearing the stuff, and so on and so forth. And also from Dr., what do you see? When from an organization perspective, I know that you work more with individuals and patients, but what do you see the risk of this mental and emotional? Would that impact organizations? More so things like, there could be high rate of staff sickness, or people will lose jobs, or they'll have to retrain themselves and so on and so forth, do something different completely because, the work order is changing. So, Doctor, your take on this. What could be possible risk to organization?
Yeah, Ashish, before I come to that, I just want to make two statements. Yes. One is when Venkat said about, stigma layered over stigma, and, we all know about the stigma, but there has been a good part of the stigma. Because of the stigma of COVID-19, the stigma towards mental health has become less. All organizations are now having psychological counselors. Headlines which you showed were on mental health. Yes. The government has got educated about health and mental health, and public has got now they are worrying less about COVID-19, worrying more about mental health. So in some way, this has been a blessing of disguise for mental health.
I agree. I can't agree more. Absolutely. Yes.
And the second is, which I think Renu mentioned about social media. And I can understand, even we are very concerned about social media. But in these times, social media has come out to be the social support. Imagine if this was happening 20 years back without WhatsApp and Facebook, what would happen to us? I'm quite sure something else would happen. But, social media is a new social support. Okay. Coming to your issues, what will happen to organizations? I think people are getting used to, like in hospitals, anytime we find one doctor or one nurse or one attender becomes positive, all the people with whom they have come to contact with, they go away for 2 weeks on quarantine. And then we have started working in different ways. So same thing will happen in industry. So I think suppose when they are going to office, when they go to the location, and if in one section, so industry has to make sure that it is in sections. So
I think we lost Doc.
They would all go off for 10 days or 15 days. About the overall structure of organizations, what will happen is, again, coming back to what Venkat said and Renu said earlier, when this thing whole started, people started feeling that it's a good, we can have family time, we are getting an opportunity for quality time, and things like those. But see, the good thing about quality time is that it is always very short. Now the problem is quantity time, what to do with the time. Being in the same home, looking at same people, we have got fed up. All the topics we have talked about, all the old photographs have been seen, all the old music has been heard. What else to do? We are finished with Ludo and snake ladders and all that. So the honeymoon phase is over. After that, it's the phase which has come is, there has been a status quo and people are looking at newer ways. And what happens in such situations?
Yeah, he's. I
In
think we
all these
lost him again.
situations, we have lost home. Where is the home? There is no home any longer. Okay, but what happens in natural courses, the industry will rise as the phoenix, and like the phoenix rises, they will come up with newer ways, newer situations, newer things, and be able to work.
Perfect. Why are we still here, doctor? But this is absolutely brilliant. I think the way he said the industry will rise as phoenix, this is a prediction for all those industry people who are hearing. And while you're listening, you can take your notes and please put your questions on the chat. We will answer. We'll take your questions separately in a while. All right, but I really like the way he said that industry has to make sure that we de-risk ourselves, work in session to de-risk. Absolutely fantastic. Moving on, Renu, what is your take? How do we organize? How is there a possible impact on organizational objective, overall vision with this mental emotional state of people?
My take is that let's revisit the purpose of organization. When we say, what are the possible risks to organization's objective? Why do the organization exist for? So if we are talking about professional organization, business organizations, they obviously exist for financial gain, profit, we say, or growth. So in terms of volume, in terms of revenue, that is one big economic objective, or you can say financial objective. And the second objective every organization says that they would like to be employer of choice, or they would like to have a employer brand, the best employer, or great place to work kind of thing. And third objective, organizations do say that they have a bigger community objective, because we are not in isolated space. Our stakeholders are not only our shareholders, but the entire community is our stakeholder. So third objective also is about the community or the environment, ecology,
right?
So carbon footprint for Shankar. These are the objectives. So, so obviously the first will have a setback, which means the financial objective will have a setback. And we have heard from various people like Jack Ma or Tata, whoever, that for this year, let the goal be survival. Let's just come out of it. That should be the goal. For a parent like me, whose son has passed his class 12 and has to go to the university and is in a limbo, this fear that how long he will be in like this, also some kind of anxiety, gives you anxiety. And there are lakhs and millions of such children in India. So coming back again to organization, yes, the organization objective have to be revisited. Why we were existing, and the way doctor said that it will rise like phoenix. I also, it may not happen for everyone, but I think the time has come to reassess why we are existing. Are we only existing for pure exploitation of natural resources to earn profit? Coming to very micro level of working. So when we were suddenly locked down, and obviously some of us played Ludo and watched all the movies on YouTube, and somebody like me mourned on the death of Irfan Khan in the lockdown period and watched almost all of his movies. But on the work front, it was for 2 months, it was only maintenance work. You were just thinking, whatever is a maintenance job, something has to be done. Okay, goal setting has to be done on appraisal. Okay, increments have to be given. Okay, salary has to be processed. So let's do the maintenance work. But now we have a hang of it. And we know, while people in our industry were saying we can never work from home, but we have made it successful to a large extent.
Right.
We have found out ways on how to make it successful. We were so much bogged down that we need to have a physical papers in front of us, a physical signature, and we have found 100 ways to work without a physical signature, without physically you going through the document.
Absolutely.
And binding those documents. So that phase has, and you have used technology for so many things for going paperless, which could have come to IT companies before, but for companies like us now, we are forced to do that. Now I think we are going for value add phase, where we are thinking, in HR, what do we value add in a new way? So we are now looking for new ways, and social media definitely has helped a lot in bringing us closure. Who had thought that we will use our 4 p.m. webinars for cooking classes, for Zumba. I'm just saying, not everybody will go for Zumba, not everybody will go for cooking, not everybody will go for gardening, but those who have that interest, they will go for it. We are having one noon quizzes on Friday. We have yoga. We have got artwork series in which we involve children of the employees. And now we are looking for new ways to add value to employees' purpose by, the entire talent review process now is being done online, which was done very much physically. The coaching now is being done through MS Team or through Zoom. So yes, I think it is a matter of also revisiting your organization goals.
I think that's the best thing you said. We need to revisit the organization, purpose of organization. The three purposes: financial, employer of choice, or a bigger community. Right? Financially, if you can sustain and even survive, great, good enough. But the two objectives we talk about are being an employer of choice and doing something for the employees and doing community. Right? Can we really focus on that this year? Very, very well said, Renu.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move now to something very interesting, and I'm sure a lot of audience will be very excited about this. It's about to hear, and I'm going to turn it to Venkat again. Renu has already shared a few things that she is doing. Venkat, I'd like to hear what is Accenture doing to really increase employee well-being in the organization. Some of your experiments and stories. Hello. Venkat?
Hey, I'm right here. Sorry, Ashish. Apologies.
No.
I started talking without releasing the mute button.
I'll
quickly cover a couple of things. One, one is I think on the space of awareness. So I'll actually weave this in the form of a very quick story, right? Something that started. We're a large organization and we are a significant portion of our communities that we work and live in. And whatever happens outside happens inside. Right, and so does on a odd day self-harm. And we said, how can we help people who how do we know who needs help? And that's really was our humble beginnings 2.5 years ago. And when we got an industry body together, we talked with other people in the industry, and we really our first workshop was really around understanding self-harm. And I think from there, we've come a long way. We today run workshops. We run 9 types of workshops, curated workshops. We've spoken to over 40,000 of our people in the last year in person for over 90 minutes on mental wellness. And we actually differentiate between awareness and education. Awareness is knowing that mental wellness is a thing. Education is knowing that if you're sad for 14 days, or beyond, is a self-check for yourself to know that you need to go see a professional to get yourself some help. We've also built, I think from there our journey went on to advocacy, which is like you have a fire warden everywhere. How do we reach people across our 39 facilities in that last corner of the topmost floor? And we really said we have to have our spokespeople. So we have over 500 advocates across the country who are actually trained to be, first responders in a manner of speaking. I think the third thing is we've very extensively focused on resilience. And resilience is, both as a concept and how does one build it. And there are both local and global workshops. And, Ashish, I was sharing with you, in a time like this, we almost have an open house with a professional counselor, a psychologist or a psychiatrist once a week. It's an open house. People can come, people can talk about it, talk about what's on their mind, or gain some tips and go away. And there is a lot of care and crisis and community work that we do, which is really extending our counseling support to families of our employees, up to, and even contractors, and up to 6 months after they leave us. I'll leave with the final thing. I think we did adopt artificial intelligence for sheer scalability, easy access, and enhanced experience for our people. Not everybody wants to pick up a phone. And so we said we introduced WISA, which is WYSA for anyone who's listening. It's a free version available to all of you. We've made the premium version available to all of our employees. So pretty much everybody has WISA available on their phone for them to use. And finally, I think we've come a long way in understanding we've come a long way in understanding, and we know we have a much longer way. But I think we also understand that mental health is a function of truly, who you are, and one, more than anything else, one size doesn't fit all. So today we are really looking at how do we talk to a single person? How do we talk to a person in their 20s? How do we talk to a, person who's a single parent? How do we talk to a person who may be dealing with an empty nest syndrome? How do we, and so on and so forth. So we're trying to segment people to know if you are so and so, what's appropriate for you in terms of communication. And finally, we also have several pilots running to use technology to ensure that content that our people may be exposed to are moderated, and we're actually now introducing that work in pilot phases to our clients. So that's really the length and breadth of where we've come in the last 2.5 years. Thank you. Thanks, Ashish, for asking.
Fabulous. That's fantastic story. I mean, I was just thinking the whooping, you said 40,000 people have gone through 90 minutes of counseling. I was just doing a quick mental math. There's almost 3,000 days of counseling with people. Boy, that's just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Doc, any story you would like to share that you've heard of you doing, not only NIMANS, but I'm sure you've seen the world in your last 40 years. Anything you like to talk more particularly?
Well, Ashish, you caught me on the wrong foot. And as an organization, because it is like Diya Tale Andhera, so we are not doing anything for ourselves. We are all the time doing for others, as Venkat said, and Renu was saying, she also does a lot of counseling. People ask us for advice, but nobody asks us how are we surviving. So we miss out on that.
वो हलवाई अपनी दुकाई की मिठाई नहीं खाता. Okay,
but I think what I have gathered, this has been a very short experience about dealing with COVID and COVID-like situations, is that we have to look at variety. And something which Venkat said, whether you call it town hall or whatever, self-help is the best help. And you talk to people, you share with each other. It's not only about talking. You find people who are listening. And I think the virtual platform is very good because it shows you numbers of people who are listening, and they might not be listening. They have put their video off and they have gone away somewhere. But that is very, it is very enthusing that so many people are listening to you. But it's also to get ideas from people how they are surviving. The type of thing which you are asking now, so that people can give more ideas to other people of how to survive. But in the end, I think it is looking at variety. So variety can be simple things. Some days you work from your office in your home. One day you work from the dining table. One day you work in your bedroom. That a little change is something which the body can accept that. So, but it is something. And also the volunteering, doing good for others is something which is very, very good. Organizations, what they can do is, I saw in this previous panel, and some of you have also said, awarding them, giving them good gestures, even saying thank you, and having small games and tips. I mean, these are things which we have to think now out of the box and get more ideas of how to survive with this, because this is going to be the new normal for the next many months and years.
Oh boy, I'm actually a little scared when you say many years. I'm okay with many months, but many years. Oh boy. Renu, any quick? I know you've already talked about a few things, but any quick one or two other things? I know you're doing some very.
So I will not narrate. I will not narrate what all we have done because they are not very different. I think we are all doing, but great inputs from both of you, the panel. I just say that what we have done is that when we organize various HR for you, HR Connect sessions. These are like not many sessions under different brand names. Reach out to people in small groups. And as and when we hear something of concern as HR, we immediately act on it. So, for example, we heard a concern from some lady who said that, at one noon, I have to go and heat food for my children. I have to heat food warm the food for my children. And this manager is saying, come on the video. Why? Why is he insisting me to come on the video? So we say to managers that, you can't insist on people to come on video. You can do the walk the talk. You wear your, t-shirt and proper collar t-shirt. You come on the video, but you can't insist people to come on the video. This is like a kind of harassment. Similarly, we heard from people that they have a lot of issue on data connectivity. The vendor, the service provider of Airtel is not connecting in some zones. Our managers said, no, this is their work. They are saving on their fuel. Now they should invest on a broadband. Why should we invest? These kind of things happen in organization. No, but वो खुद क्यों नहीं खर्च करेंगे अपना? But then we said, no, we are here to support such people. And then it was a 6-week, tussle between HR and others. And we said, no, they want it. Let's give it to them. So we enhanced the data card. We brought a new vendor in place in addition to Airtel, and all those things happened. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I some of the things that you're saying, it resonated. I'm thinking I also did the same. I told my people, well, when we're having a video call, everybody must switch on their video. I mean, we are in an office, but I'm really taking a cue from what you're saying and maybe implement a few things in my company. Okay, moving on. I mean, you already answered this question about technology, so I'm not taking this. I'm going to move on to the last question that I have for the panel, and then we'll take very quickly some questions from the audience. Right. So here is my last question, which essentially, and I'll leave it to whoever wants to take this question. It doesn't have to be addressed to any one person. Which essentially is, how do you see the way forward for the companies post-pandemic? Right. I'd like to hear that. I mean, there's some quick thoughts on way forward post the pandemic, where when it comes to work culture, expectation from employees or demand vis-a-vis their emotional and physical well-being. Some of the, because we are all talking about new normal for a few months, and Doc is saying few years it could be like this, right? So there is a bit of, there's all kind of mistrust, confusion, what kind of productivity we'll want from people when working from home, but the homes are not set out in the way that people can work. All kind of issues are there, right? But we know that we want to, this is the new normal, we've got to work, and as HR leaders and as doctor, what are the few things that you think that you will suggest as a way forward? I mean, there are a lot of audience.
If I can start, Ashish. See, when this COVID came, it came as everybody says unprecedented, and we were unprepared. But now we know, from whatever little we know, that there are going to be a second wave and a third wave. We come to know that people who even get an infection, they are not immune forever. They might be immune for 1 year or 2 years, but there might be another strain. So now in future, government has got this thing. Whenever their number increases too much, then they say there should be a lockdown. So now we have got used to these uncertainties. And I think organizations should be prepared for it in future. That if lockdowns happen, what do we do? If a similar situation happens, what do we do? If there is a second wave, third wave, if there is another virus, what do we do? So I think this should prepare us. This is like it's like an inoculation to the society and organizations to be prepared for such things in future, so that we are much better prepared of how to deal with it without having the amount of impact that we have faced and suffered during this current pandemic.
Absolutely, I think that's a great message, that be prepared, guys, because there will be a repetition of this. Right, so don't think this is over. There will be repetition. So now we were not prepared on the 18th, 19th of March, but now be prepared. Thank you, Doc.
Yeah.
Renu, Venkat, any of you would like to very quickly send a final message as to what we must do forward?
I just say two things, that even the pandemic or no pandemic, organizational culture, the philosophy has not changed. So and should not change, which means we should keep on working on making the organization more open, more authentic, because we can't bear the facade every time. And we should set the right expectations. So if your manager is giving a call to it and setting those 8 a.m. Zoom calls with you, 9 p.m. calls with you for closing the day,
right.
and he is showing that he's so committed because the times are very tough. They have to bring new business. Are you setting the right expectation? I think that is very important.
So
and this pandemic or no pandemic, I think setting expectation is very important, and having the right culture of mutual respect. So before pandemic also, we had issues where we used to hear the managers have been quite disrespectful at times. And now also we hear this, and now it is more pronounced because you can save the voice. So there are manager who would say, "Itna bhi brain nahi hai kya? Apna brain lagao na." Yeah. So and these are not simple statements. I think these are very loaded statements.
Very loaded, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you can't.
From my side, yeah.
I know. I think you're very right. Be more authentic, and I think that there has to be mutual respect, not only respect of professionals, but also respect of time of each other, right? And therefore, the 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. is absolutely no. Venkat, your closing comments, the way forward.
I think structure, power of preparation and structure. Then I'll quickly qualify. Power of preparation is, we prepared for many. Most organizations have a good business continuity plan. If this happens, I will do this, right?
Yes.
And eventually, all of that came to test, and that's why we all prepare. Right? All preparation can ascertain is that when something goes wrong, varied ways of responding. So continue to prepare.
Absolutely.
Number one.
Great. Yes.
Number two is structure, right? In a very structured manner, prepare to work in the new, right? Address everything that this has cropped up. So I would say structure, systems, and policies to address the new normal, whatever that is right now, and continue to prepare for an uncertain future would be the two things.
Fabulous. Absolutely. I think that the message is very clear, loud and clear to all the audience who are watching this, that this is going to be new normal. We will have more of lockdowns and situations like this. So preparation is the key. Be more authentic, set the right expectation, and have the right structures to make sure that, that whatever, whenever we have a new and, uncertain environment like this, we are much more prepared than what we were prior. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to just move to the other quickly. Vinti, are you around? I'm going to move quickly to the other panel, to that where we have the questions from audience. Where is? Let me just check. Where are those questions? Anybody from FICCI, if you're watching, if there are some questions that have come from audience, I'd be happy to pass it on to.
Just let me just check this.
Yes. I know we're already behind time. Doctor, I know that you said that we must keep time for the questions, but I think I think the panel has been so brilliant in the kind of thing that you said is absolutely so bang on. Sometimes you wonder, when you're sitting in the class and the teacher is so good, you don't want to ask any questions. And the three teachers over here, Venkat, Renu, and Doctor, have been so good that you may not even have any questions. So
but I should add that, Ashish, your questions were very interesting, and since they were visible to us, I think it was quite a good session. I found it very insightful. I found the input of Dr. and Venkat quite
absolutely brilliant.
Ashish, we have a question here.
Yeah.
So they say mental health concerns are considered personal issues which employees need to figure out by themselves. This is what the psychology of organizations are. So how do you see organizations rising up to this now with that mindset?
Venkat, would you like to take that?
Yes. I would love to take that. I think, and I'd love to take that because I agree. I think firstly, it's a fabulous question. Self-help is the best way to help yourself. But I will say two other things. We actually very quickly realized we had to do three things. One, make it okay to talk about it. The second and the third thing are very interesting. The second thing, we realized we had to teach people signs and symptoms of we are not professionals. So we had to learn in simple layman language, mental health means what and mental health manifests how. I'm tired repeatedly. And what is the difference between normal and abnormal and how it changes from person to person and how that's not a right word. And then the third was to help people understand what are the resources available at hand. Now, the way this works is you talk about mental health, you learn about signs and symptoms, and then you know which resources to use. Now, while we do that, that's why we also have advocates and we also talk to many people. And one thing we tell everybody, at least we tell everybody at the firm, we say, these signs and symptoms, watch it for yourself. But when something goes wrong with you, the likelihood is your ability to observe and act on it may be impeded. So always contract with another person who can check in on you when you are not being your regular self. Which means if you are suddenly withdrawn and you're usually gregarious, you tell someone, hey, if I contract with you to tell me that something, to check in on me that something may not be right. So it's a combination. It's predominantly, in our view, one to really help themselves. But I think we are trying to create an ecosystem where you start observing that somebody is not being their regular self. We are making it okay for people to reach out and say, you're not looking your regular self. Do you need help?
Okay, that's very absolutely self-help is the way to go. Thank you very much, Venkat. Absolutely brilliant. Anybody, Binti, any more question?
Yeah, there's another one, and they say that, do you see COVID-19 pandemic exposing flaws which existed pre-COVID too, especially towards mental health and employee assistance programs?
Renu, would you like to take that? Because I know you are doing a lot of EAPs. Or maybe you want to read
hear that. I'm sorry, I could not hear that question.
Yeah, so Renu would say that, do you see COVID-19 pandemic exposing flaws which existed pre-COVID too, especially towards mental health and employee assistance programs? I think it's echoing with what you said earlier that, you know, before the pre-COVID also there used to be a lot of
EAPs, yeah, that's right. Yeah, there used to be EAPs. Are these because the COVID? Are they exposing flaws which were existing in pre-COVID too in the EAPs? That's what it is saying, really. Somebody's asking that.
Venkat can give a reply. I have some network issue. I can't.
Sure.
No,
I think. Sorry, go ahead, doctor.
No, if I can add it, it's not only showed flaws in industry, but it has showed flaws in the government, in the system, in the whole country towards mental health. And I would just like to repeat that, you know, it has brought mental health so much into focus, and I hope it continues, and so that it's actually good for everyone's well-being. Yeah, sorry, Venkat.
I think it's so true, Doctor. It is not just the company, actually, it's absolutely across. And I mean, not that we want to talk politics here, but it has exposed everyone, absolutely. But we were not prepared, really. This kind of, you're prepared for, as Venkat was saying, you're prepared for all kind of risk, business risk, earthquake, this and that. You're never prepared for, that we will not be able to get to work for 3 months, 4 months. We're never prepared for this. Well, I think in the interest of time, Vinti, I think Venkat, Doc, and Renu have been absolutely brilliant in their answers. The kind of examples that we've got, the story that we heard, and what Accenture is doing and Renu is doing under EAP. And of course, Doctor talked about Diya Tale Andhera, but I know Doctor is lightening the entire world with what he is doing. Well, I can only thank them for being here, for sharing their views, sharing your and of course, spending time with our audience. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you for superbly moderating the session as always. Thank you, Renu. Thank you, Venkat. And thank you, Dr. S.K. Chaturvedi for joining in. I would also like to make a mention here that this panel on mental health and well-being was supported by HRNXE, which we collaborated with HRNXE for this particular panel. So thank you, Ashish, for supporting us. So here is a wrap, and I think we are just on time. We just finished on time. We had some brilliant insights coming in. We will be tagging you on the social media handles. Do have a look at our FICCI and FICCI Quality Forum Twitter and LinkedIn to find out your tweets and promote them in your networks. Thank you so much. Signing off from here. Thank you all for joining in.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.